Gaming news today is all about Xbox. First, I'm going to give you my first impressions of Halo Campaign Evolved. I played it on the PS5 Pro, and honestly, I had a great time and a mostly very fun and good experience. There are some issues, however, that you should be aware of. I'm really hoping they can address some things with a day one patch or one of those early patches. It might make you want to hold off, at least initially. Second, Xbox is officially testing ads for streaming games. We're going to look at the details and talk about what this means for the future of the brand, as well as game streaming and ads showing up in these gaming environments. Third, one of the worst aspects that I have ever had with my Xbox Series X is apparently being fixed. We're going to look at the latest update, and we're going to see what sort of improvements have been made with respect to download speed. So if you are watching this later and you like my daily content, the live shows, be sure to hit the like button. That helps the video. You can hit subscribe so you don't miss out on the shows. And if you want to help me directly, click join and become a member. You get into the Discord where we do a lot of the extra content. So first, we're just going to start with my Halo Campaign Evolved first impressions so you guys can kind of get a bead on what I thought. Well, Halo Campaign Evolved is here, and after 2 hours with the game on my PS5 Pro, I can definitely say my experience was mostly and very positive. My only gripes may keep you from buying it right now, as they are hopefully addressed with a day one patch, or we know games like to do those early quality of life patches that we've seen pretty recently. So I want to walk through the good, the bad, and the wait and see. So first, let's just talk about the good. Now, I know graphically a lot of people have been debating and, taking issue with how it seems very shiny. I actually think the graphics are quite good. I take no issue with that. Now, maybe that's because I'm not some long-time Halo fan who feels as though the graphical style has been too much of an alteration. I think the lighting, I think the texture all looks very, very good. I even sort of remarked when I was outdoors, this does not feel like another run-of-the-mill, photorealistic sort of asset flip that we've seen with lots of games where like they go for the photorealism and it sort of loses identity. I don't feel like that's happened here. There is a sense of grit and texture to the world. It does have this sort of old school sci-fi tone to it. Some of that's with the lighting and the use of lens flare. Others just, I think, the way that the color and the lighting is implemented. Another really good thing about this that I kept noticing was the sound design. I thought the weapons sounded fantastic. Now, somebody said some of the reloads didn't have quite enough punch. I thought the reloads sounded like they should for what each weapon looked like, but just the impact and the pulse and sort of the synthesized sound of the more futuristic weapons, I thought it sounded very, very good. It was something that I continued to notice every time I picked up a new weapon or every time I picked up some sort of thing or got into like a turret or something like that. I was remarking on the sound design. Now, the gameplay. I would say the gameplay feels faithful. Now, some people have taken an issue with that. They feel like it just sort of feels like the game always did, which I think is probably a good thing. I don't think that's a bad thing. That is something that I think fans of the franchise were probably hoping for. Now, they did add sprint, but the level design just doesn't seem conducive to sprint a lot of the times. There were a handful of times that maybe, excuse me, I could have been using sprints to close the gap better on enemies for melee, but I got so accustomed to not sprinting in some of the areas where it just didn't seem to make sense. I actually wasn't using it all that often. There is still no traditional ADS, aim down sight. It's more of just this zoom in or scope thing depending on the weapon. I would say that the guns feel great. The movement feels great, albeit it's got that classic floaty feel when you jump or when you're in the Warthog, but it feels like Halo that I remember playing. I didn't play a lot of the campaign back in the day, but I played a ton of Halo 1 in the college dorms PvP, and this very much felt like I remember it. To me, it's a solid mix of dated yet current, if that makes sense. So overall, I appreciated this. I'm anxious to go through this entire game co-op with my wife. I feel like it's just sort of getting back to an old school and satisfying gameplay loop that doesn't try to pretend that it's something else. Now, there are some bad things, though. There is very noticeable hitches that I was seeing on a pretty regular basis. Now, they didn't feel like frame drops. I'll talk about frame drops in a moment. it's like the whole game snags. This was especially noticeable in big open areas in the one section, and then I got indoors. There was nothing really around. There was nothing really happening. Just regular hitches. It's like the whole game kind of snags and stops. Now, this could be an Unreal Engine thing. Unreal Engine 4 and 5 have been known for stuttering issues. I wasn't sure if this was a stutter. I don't know what you would classify. I always thought a stutter was sort of like you would notice almost like it was like a skipping effect. This was just like one big snag for half a second, maybe a millisecond, and then it went away. Not that bad, but noticeable because it was happening very, very regularly. Okay, now I would overlook that and be like, go ahead and buy this and have a ball, but when I got into some big fights indoors, not the ones you're looking at here, but like even bigger than this, it was sort of like a big room and there was explosions and things like that going on. The frame drops were really bad. It almost had a stop motion like quality to it. Explosions especially combined with the ragdoll and the physicality of the room, like barrels were flying, enemies were flying, and the frame rate was really bad whenever that happened. Now that really hurt the experience. I mean, flow of combat is important to a game like this. Like, you don't want to feel like you're sort of moving in slow motion and the game is moving in slow motion. It can make things feel awkward and really hurt flow state. I would actually say those performance issues are a good enough reason to sort of hold off if you were on the fence. Like, if you're a diehard and you're just going to go in here and have fun no matter what, have a ball, it really is fantastic. But those frame drops, I do think, are a concern. It's like if they can't wrangle that in, that's going to be a huge bummer. The further you get in the game, you're going to be getting into bigger fights, more bombastic fights. You're going to be getting different weapons and more enemies and things like that. So I'm a little bit more critical of remakes, especially. I think they should not have these type of issues. The entire point of a remake is to make the game feel and look better, not necessarily worse. Like, I'm not saying it's worse than it was originally, but when I go into a remake, I expect it to be a very polished experience. Now, whether, again, this is a UE5 thing, it actually feels very related to lighting. Anytime there was, like, light sources or too many light sources, it seemed to be triggering it, so I'm hoping they can address it. Now, once my wife and I are done with our current backlog of co-op games, we are going to play through this, and hopefully by then it has been rectified, because currently I cannot give this a super strong recommend because of those issues. And I know some people might think I'm overstating it or I obsess over frame rate. You can watch my stream if you want to see what I'm talking about and skip to the section where I'm indoors and there's lots of explosions happening. It's not that hard to find. And it is very, very noticeable. And if that's going to be happening in big fights, that I think is a big enough bummer to say, hey, let's wait and see if they can address this. Once those issues are resolved, I have basically no gripes. I think they've done an excellent job. It looks and feels great. I hope this is a sign that they can make Halo look and feel great in Unreal. I still think future Halos need to move away from just feeling like another Halo. That's a big debate for another day, but for now, I think you will enjoy this if you're an old or a new fan, especially if they can get some of those performance issues resolved. But that is just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and always remember to swing by one of my live streams. But that's not the only piece of Xbox news that's been going on. We have more Xbox news, and this has to do with ads in a very particular environment. As of July 23rd, Xbox has officially announced a new test and learn program for Xbox insiders, and the headline is ad-supported game streaming. Now, I know what you're thinking. We're going to be getting into all the details about what Microsoft is actually revealing, but right up front, I am going to put my cards on the table. I think this announcement is just the beginning, especially considering Asha met with the co-CEO of Netflix and probably got some ideas about how to implement ads into the platform. The dam has officially broken in my mind. We are looking at the dawn of advertising showing up in and around and maybe even eventually throughout our gaming experiences, which sounds terrible. So provide feedback, okay? Be a good consumer, all right? Hopefully the presence of ads can remain very contained, especially as contained as this announcement promises. So first, let's just break down exactly what they announced. If you are an Xbox insider, you can now stream select games that you own for free, supported by ads. You don't need to pay for like a dedicated cloud streaming subscription up front. Instead, you get a 1-hour session limit on supported devices, and in exchange, you have to watch advertisements before your session begins. And to be fair to Microsoft, their messaging here is careful. They laid out very strict set of principles for this rollout. They explicitly stated, hey, we're not going to interrupt the flow of gameplay. They're promising that ads will only play before your game starts, like a pre-roll ad on like a YouTube video or other streaming platforms that offer these type of sub-levels. And that their main goal here is simply to lower the barrier of entry. And listen, I will concede that this isn't much different than other ad placements that are on video streaming platforms right now, giving players access to, Series X and S titles on older hardware or a mobile device, or a cloud TV or something like that, without demanding a hefty upfront console purchase or a subscription. Well, that could be great for accessibility. It could really open up the ecosystem to those who don't own a console, which that may be key in thinking about the future of their hardware aspirations as they continue to push out announcements this week that seemingly have nothing to do with future hardware, but maybe the end of it. At least, again, that's just something that I'm getting a sense of. On paper, a free hour of premium streaming for watching an ad, well, it sounds like a fair trade, but here is where we have to read the room and look at the broader history of tech and entertainment. Every single platform that introduced ads promised that it would be non-intrusive, and that, if you think about it, you had early cable television, then you had places like Hulu, and then there's basic tiers of Netflix and Amazon Prime Video. The ad-free utopia eventually erodes. Microsoft is just sort of building the plumbing right now. They're testing the ad delivery network, getting players conditioned to the idea that an Xbox experience includes ads, and they're figuring out what the engagement metrics look like. Once that infrastructure is fully in place, and once shareholders see the potential revenue from a captive, highly engaged audience, do we really think it's going to stop at the loading screen? Do we really think that we won't eventually see mid-roll ads between multiplayer matches or unskippable breaks when you fast travel in a massive RPG? Obviously, that sounds horrifying, and we don't want that. But really, the game industry is facing bloated budgets, massive layoffs, and a desperate need for new monetization. Ads are an inevitable frontier that seemingly they're cracking the seal on. Satya Nadella recently talked about how they haven't been monetizing their games, but rather they've been subsidizing them. He even remarked that Xbox games are better monetized on YouTube than they monetize them, which is interesting because just yesterday I was doing a stream and the official Halo music from Halo Campaign Evolved got hit with a revenue share from the official Halo account. And it's like, well, this is just a game soundtrack. I've actually never experienced this before. Never had another game do that. Now, hopefully, that's not their new policy. Hopefully, that's not some idea of how to monetize their games on YouTube. And listen, if the ad discussion sounds familiar, it's because Matt Ball recently spoke to this. He said plainly that he believes interrupted game experiences with ads are a bad idea. And listen, he's right. Video games are not passive media like television or movies. There is a flow state. There is an active form of engagement. Ripping the controller out of the player's hands to show them a car commercial during a boss fight or an emotional story, well, that would be completely destructive to immersion, and that's one of the greatest strengths of gaming. But here's the kicker. As much as Matt hates the idea, he notably stopped short of saying that it would never happen. He clarified that this was just his own personal belief, his own preference. He knows the business realities of this industry and that you should never say never, well, except when he gives assurances that absolutely no conversations have happened internally about walking back exclusives, which I simply do not believe. We have new reports to indicate that internally that is still being discussed, and there are lots of people that don't like the idea of exclusives at the company. When someone is plugged in as Matt Ball leaves the door cracked open for intrusive ads, even while arguing against them, you know it's a real possibility. It's being probably debated at boardroom tables right now. So where does that leave us? Well, for now, if you're an Xbox insider, you'll be able to see a pre-roll ad before you get an hour of cloud gaming. It's optional, it's unintrusive, it's positioned as a pro-consumer choice. But make no mistake, the lines are being redrawn. Advertising in premium gaming is no longer a hypothetical. It is a reality being tested in the wild right now. This is just the opening salvo. The infrastructure is being laid down, the audience is being tested, and the precedence is being set. We are going going into a new era of gaming. The ads are here, and if we let them, they're going to get closer to the core gameplay. But those are just my thoughts. Let me know what your thoughts are on this matter. Leave a comment below or swing by one of my live streams. But that's not the only Xbox story. We got one more, and this one's actually a good one, and this is I think this is a good update that I celebrate. We've all been there. We sit down to game, or our kids sit down to game, and the dreaded update required pops up. Worse, when the download speeds for that update are incredibly slow, even though your internet is really fast. Now, normally in today's day and age, an update shouldn't really be a big deal. We pay for internet service providers a ton of money, honestly, every month. We've got broadband, we've got fiber, we've got fancy routers that look like spaceships. And listen, for this entire gen, the problem with this is that my Xbox has been notoriously terrible and slow when it needs to update a game. I can't tell you how many times my daughter was just excited to jump into Fortnite, and I had to sit there and babysit the update. And if you're an Xbox owner, you know exactly what I was doing. You would go in, you would pause the update, you would resume it, and you would just keep doing this over and over again. You'd go to the queue, pause the download, wait a couple seconds, and then hit resume and hold your breath, hoping that you get a decent speed. And many times it would jump up to 400 and 500, 600, and then it would drop to 300, 200, 100. It would just keep coming down. So you would pause again, restart it again, and eventually I might get a decent speed. Now, this was genuinely one of the most frustrating tech experiences you can have because there really isn't a fix. Well, at least until now. According to a recent report from Windows Central, Microsoft is changing how the Xbox network handles game downloads. They're rolling out an update that will boost download speeds across the console and the PC ecosystem, and they are doing it by fixing the exact problem that caused all of this. They're introducing what they call the Smart Download Client, and here's how it works. Before your Xbox, it would just sort of grab a content server and just hold on to it, even if the server was bogged down, even if your speeds were really, really bad. Many people could be downloading from the exact same place or the exact same update. But now, well, shortly after your game download begins, this new client is going to actively check all available content servers. It actually tests the connection speed to each server in real time, and it automatically selects the fastest available connection for your specific machine. And that's not all. It's not going to just do it once. The speed test runs periodically during the installation. So if the server that it's pulling from suddenly gets congested or it slows down, the Xbox will automatically switch you to a faster one. This means Xbox is finally doing the pause and resume dance for us. It's constantly rerouting to make sure that you are getting the maximum speed. And on top of that, they are patching the bugs that would cause sometimes downloads to randomly hang or stall completely. Now, reviewers are testing this in the Xbox Insider program right now, and they're reporting that for the first time in years, they're actually getting the maximum download speeds that they pay for. Now, it's a shame that it took this long to implement something that many of us were already doing manually. Hopefully, they can roll this out to all the Xboxes soon, get it out of the testing, getting out of the Insider program, and get it onto the standard Xbox update funnel, because for right now, until this update hits, that's your best course of action. Your best course of action is to literally hit pause, restart, pause, restart. But once this update hits, it will do it for you, and it should increase your download speeds. Let me know in your comments below, is this something that you've struggled with? Are you in the Insider program? Have you tested it out? What are your results? Let me know what you think, and does this help you? Because it'll certainly help me and my kiddos play Fortnite when they're trying to play. But that's just my thoughts on the matter, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, and be sure to swing by one of my live streams. And that's it. That's the show open. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. So, bit of a mixed bag. I know people are probably not thrilled hearing about advertisements in games, but it could open up good opportunities for like free tiers. I don't know why all of a sudden YouTube, I couldn't watch that video. I think AWS is having some issues this morning. It's probably affecting lots of different places. Thank you guys for already getting us 100 likes on the video. Let's go for 200 likes, and Jack Garland's going to start things off today. Han shot first, and so did you. 165 on the week, and it's Friday, so got a bit of a slog ahead of us if you guys are going to try to unlock the Saturday stream. Right now, we are basically where we were last week. And last week, you guys hit it by everybody doing 5 bombs. So if you can't do a 5 bomb or a single or a renewal, just hang out, chat, lurk, listen, and like. Those things help out as well. I don't know what they use. I mean, it a lot of times it affects a bunch of sites, like everywhere. It seemingly does. One of the largest cloud providers, and for years they can't figure out how to properly do downloads on Xbox. They are the worst, says Frank. They need broken up. Legend renews for 50 months. Thank you so much. That's a VIP. And then a gifted comes in from Rissick. And then a 5 bomb comes in from Wired Rope on Twitch. And then a 5 bomb comes in from Rissick and gets us to 177. I owe YouTube a member. Thank you so much. I've not been doing that. I need to do those as soon as they pop up. I was trying to save them for the 5 bombs, but I'm going to do that one right now. I owe one to YouTube. Thank you guys so much for pushing that goal a little bit higher today. Little slow on the start this morning. Madam is out of town, so I had to make sure the kiddos were good to go this morning before I started the stream. And then the babysitter's gonna get here in like, I don't know, a little bit. Amazon has the issue. Yes, it is a known issue right now. It's happening. And a 10 bomb comes in from Rissick. He drops a big one. I don't know. That might be the first 10 bomb of the week. And Too Thirsty is going to drop a 5 bomb. And Boss 420 is going to come in and sign up all on their own. We love to see that. Thank you so much, Boss 420, for signing up for a brand new member on your own. When you guys can do that on your own and pick up your own membership, it makes room for others, and it supports me directly. So thank you so much for that. And that gets us to 193 on the week. If the ads are for free gaming service, then I think it could be a good way for people with little money to check out a game. Yeah, if that's all it ever becomes, Harbinger, I don't care at all. I don't. If you go in to watch anything at the cheapest tier and they're going to put an ad in front of something, okay, fine. Now, when I had the ad tier with Peacock, they made it so painful. It was like they wanted you to get off this. They didn't even want you on that. Like, that's obviously the concern. Is that, and Rissick does another single gifted thank you, is that when you do something like this, they can start to make it so painful that you'll pay to get out of the ad tier. Like, it was so bad on Peacock. We would watch a 22-minute episode of Hitchcock, and there was like a commercial. I don't even know. It was stupid how often they were showing up. And a 5 bomb comes in from Rissick and gets us to 199. Rissick's going to carry the day, I guess. And a single comes in from Frank Last. We got a little bit of a member train started this morning. That's how you guys did this last week. Many hands make light work, and I owe you guys one for the 200 milestone. And Biggie Smalls renews their prime on purple, says no ads, please. Thanks for 12 months over there, Biggie. Jackov says, why do people hate ads? It's like watching Reforge and not paying for a membership, and then getting mad at Lono because you get hit with an ad while watching his video. Well, that only works on Twitch. And a 5 bomb comes in from Siege Master. We have a bit, good to see you, BellX. We have a bit of a member train going on YouTube right now. Many singles and 5s and 10s hitting, so keep it going. The wife and I may be coming to Kentucky for the Bourbon Trail in September. Would be awesome to have you and your wife to join. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not, I'd have to know, I'd probably have to know you personally to do something like that. I mean, I guess it would be a public place. That's just a little, I don't know. We'll have to see. I'd have to do, you know, you got to be careful this day and age, brother. You know what I'm saying? Like we would love to do stuff with the Bourbon Trail and things like that in Kentucky. It's one ad per hour. It doesn't sound like a big deal. Well, here's the thing. This is how it starts. Like, don't kid yourself. Okay? This is how it starts. They're just testing it with Xbox Insiders. So it's like, yeah, it's one ad and you can play for an hour. But that's how all these ad tiers start. They're like, yeah, we're just going to do one. and then they'll do 2, and then they'll do more, right? Denver with 18 months, he says renewals count. Yeah, guys, celebrate those renewals, your Primes or your YouTube memberships. They definitely count. So for me, it's like, yes, if this is all it is, I think that's totally fine. If you're like, hey, you get to play for an hour, you watch 1 ad. Okay, cool, whatever. But that's never where it stays. I don't think I've seen a single tier in any circumstance where they do an ad and they're like, yep, that's good. We're good with this. We're just good with the 1. That's good. That's all we need. I'm telling you, and I made this point in the show open. They're laying the plumbing. They're testing the bandwidth. They're testing the feature right now. Once they get that tested, these platforms, they all do it, okay? YouTube does it, Twitch does it, Netflix, all of them. They all do it. They're going to figure out how many ads can they show you before you pop and get mad and leave, right? Like, YouTube definitely does it. I can't even use the YouTube website without premium. I can't do it. It's too much. It's absurd. It is absolutely absurd. And guess what? YouTube didn't used to be that way. Like, I'm telling you. Now, the best thing to do is provide really, really firm feedback and say, we don't want any more than this. If they start trying to increase it, if they start trying to make it disruptive, then I think you have to provide that feedback and be very, very much against it. That's the best thing you can do as a consumer, is don't engage with it, don't use it, don't allow it. Provide that negative feedback to keep these companies from doing it. Make no mistake, PlayStation would do the exact same thing. They might even do the exact same thing. Once they see that it's in the wild and people are okay with it, then PlayStation will do the same thing. Like, they will. YouTube recognized me getting mad at ads and closing the app, so now I get way less ads on videos. Yeah, they use AI to determine when and how they should service ads to you. So you can definitely, provide that feedback as a user. Like, hey, this is too disruptive. I'm seeing them too much. And you guys do that to me. You'll let me know, hey, this video has too many ads, and I'm like, oh, sorry, it's automatic on a lot of these now, and I'll go and I'll try to lower them as much as I can. Like on a past broadcast, I try to lower them if we start to get that feedback. Now, it's not supposed to do that. It's only supposed to give them to you, very infrequently. But sometimes it kind of glitches and it shows you too many. So listen, that is what all these platforms will do. PlayStation will 100% do it. PlayStation's not like in some other category. Wait, why did the reactions get turned on chat? I have that disabled. That is so weird. There. Is that personal now? Like, I don't want those reactions. I don't want people spamming hearts. That's weird. Tokon looks amazing. It is what it is. PlayStation has embraced every monetization strategy that Microsoft attempts. 100%. 100%. I'm not going to act like Microsoft's the only one that's going to do this. This is going to be anybody with a brain. They're all going to do it. 18 months from Petrov. Thank you so much. They're all going to do it. Like, PlayStation will do the exact same thing. They'll be like, oh, yeah, here's a free tier of cloud or whatever. PSN's down. Yeah, AWS, Amazon Web Services, is having a major outage. It's affecting all sorts of websites. So we're seeing down reports basically everywhere. I was kind of surprised I was even able to stream on Twitch this morning. I honestly thought that it was gonna, that it was not gonna let me. I saw Thor tweeting about it this morning. There's an emergency that's been declared. Temporarily stepping into the role of co-director. Okay. This is a unique opportunity. So the Control Twitter account is tweeting. I thought maybe they were going to be offering like a little form you could fill out to get early access, but it doesn't seem like that's the case. Oh, PSN's back up in the Middle East? Okay, it'll take a while. Those AWS outages, they tend to create a lot of problems all throughout the week. DuckDuckGo browser blocks almost all. I'm not going to say that out loud because that's really unhelpful for literally what I do for a living. Steam doesn't make games regularly or subsidized consoles. Steam's irrelevant to the discussion. It's just a store. Yeah, I don't think Steam will do it because they're not a platform like that. They're a storefront. Like, they have a completely different business model than Xbox and PlayStation. We're also talking about streaming games over the cloud, which is something that these companies are trying to turn into a service. Like, they want they want you to view it as an extension of their subservices. I mean, it makes perfectly good sense. Like, they're trying to build infrastructure and then have bandwidth available so that people pay to have those types of services to access games in that way. I don't want to access games like that way as my main source. I like it as an additive thing. It is really nice being able to play games over the cloud on my PlayStation Portal, but I don't think that'll ever be the main way that I play games. Will Sony offer up to 1 day add-on for PS Plus membership total for the outage? No. I don't typically think they do that. These outages happen. It's just a thing. Like, AWS has gone down before and it causes these types of things. I don't imagine they're going to be like, here's a free day or something like that. It obviously has people all abuzz on Twitter about, like, yeah, well, this is your digital only future. And it's like, no, it's not. Do you know what an offline PlayStation 5 is? Like, when PSN is down, I can still boot up that thing and play all my digital games just fine. I don't need the internet to do that. You don't. Now, if you want to download a game, you do. Sure. That's always going to be a thing. Just like if you want to download an update, you're going to need PSN to be online. But it doesn't affect your digital games if you actually have your console set to offline or the home console, whatever the designation is. Welcome to the world of hosted infrastructure. The uptime's pretty high, but outages happens for sure. It'll drive more people away from consoles if they keep taking away ownership rights. They're not taking away ownership rights. The ownership rights haven't changed for years. They're basically identical for most digital purchases that you make outside of consoles. So it's not specific to consoles. Implementing ads to your gaming experience. Yeah, obviously we don't want ads in the gaming experience. Like, if you're using a subscription or cloud or streaming service and they make you watch an ad first, that's not quite the same as what we're talking about. You're talking about, like, actually putting them in the games or disrupting the gameplay experience. I just don't know if they're ever going to attempt that one. That one feels like the frustration levels would just be immediate and palpable. You know what I mean? Xbox has an offline mode. Yeah, plenty of these consoles have offline modes, and you are able to play your digital games just fine. The idea that, like, let's contort everything to make it about the digital only debate is silly. I want Mountain Dew ads in my Halo remakes. Master Chief shoots down a grunt and then pounds a Code Red. Now, that's a callback, dude. Code Red. We were a flavor testing city, Canton, where I grew up. And so we got a lot of those flavors before anybody else did. So I had Code Red, and I remember somebody came to visit, and they were from another city. They were like it was like a friend of mine or a cousin of mine. I can't remember what. And they were like, what is that? And we're like, what do you mean, what is that? We've had this for like a month. And they're like, we don't have this in our city. Steam can go down just the same if Akamai went down. This is the internet. I'm disappointed in the logic of internet chuds every week. Yeah, I mean, I saw, I think it was Gene Park kind of talking about it. I think it was him and somebody else. Just kind of like, there's just rampant misinformation basically everywhere. And it's just sort of it's one of the defining attributes of our time. Is that we have access to more information than the history of humanity ever has. And we are also creating some of the most uninformed people in the history of humanity. It is this very, very weird, it's like the upside down or something. It's very, very strange. It's like it's like we are becoming the upside down. This twisted, contorted version of reality. And it's like, and yet you have access to just an ocean of information. I mean, just ridiculous. And yet people are seemingly more uninformed than they have ever been. There are a lot of games that are online only. And that's not what we're really talking about, though. They would definitely implement ads during loading screens. Oh, I see what you're saying. I thought you were talking about the digital only thing. Okay, so online menu background ads, these companies are just greedy. Well, every company is going to find ways to maximize monetization. I don't know if a live service game would necessarily want to do that, because that could actually create depreciating returns. So like, let's just use Fortnite as a test case. Fortnite generally wants to put things in front of you from their own store. So loading screens, cinematics, the lobby that you're in, they are going to intentionally put you into lobbies with people that probably have like skins and cosmetics and dance moves that you don't have, right? Loading screens are commonly probably going to have those things as well. So I don't know if they would want to kind of corrupt that by being like, you know, always Coca-Cola. Like, is that even still a slogan that they say? Just for the taste of it, Diet Coke. Have you seen them? Those old commercials were ridiculous. Anyways, I can't imagine that popping up, you know, in between matches when they could be, you know, advertising their own stuff. Like, they could be advertising their own, you know, monetization items. I mean, I guess the pushback could be, yeah, but Coke's going to pay through the nose for that placement. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah, they're gonna pay through the nose. Please don't age us. I just remember the one Van Halen song for what was it, like the clear Pepsi? Right now. Those commercials were amazing. $20 from Street Shadow. So, observation. Companies are less likely to ever react to online outrage because people react to everything with outrage without nuance. It makes it easy to say the internet's always mad, drowning real feedback. I have tried to say this a lot recently. When you are basically the Hulk and you're like, well, that's my secret, Cap, I'm always angry. I had this debate like 3 years ago with y'all about the term pay to win. And I said, if you label everything pay to win, then you're allowing the most egregious offenses of pay to win to get smuggled into the group. And now they're standing shoulder to shoulder with an XP boost in a PvE game. They're not equal. Okay? And what you end up doing is you take away the potency of pay to win. Pay to win should be an offense to your sensibilities, to your competitive spirit. And instead, pay to win gets thrown around for everything now. This PvE game will give you a double XP boost as part of their Ultimate Edition. That's pay to win. And it's like, oh my gosh. So now it's like, well, what does pay to win even mean? And I always said you could have like pay to progress because it literally describes what you're doing. It's a better descriptor. It's more accurate, right? It's obviously what it means when you look at it. But now pay to win got thrown around onto everything. And it's like, well, now it doesn't have the potency that it once did. Like getting really mad and mobilizing on the internet. It's like, well, people do that every other week. Hitting Syria with a 5-bomb. Trying to help with that goal. Pay to win is buying better internet and gaming hardware. Yeah, there you go. Pay to win's being rich and buying a better mouse. Lono, just thinking about this in the context of the PSN outage and how people are reacting and not thinking with nuance. Cry wolf on stewards. It's not even crying wolf, Street Shadow. Right? It isn't. It's something different than that. So the boy who cried wolf did it because he thought it was amusing to trick people. Right? This is just like, well, I tell you what it is. It reminds me of how, so when your kids get to a certain age, you're trying to help them become emotionally mature. You're trying to help them emotionally regulate and to understand why they're upset and to not overreact and to not, you don't want your 16-year-old bursting into tears because you said, no, you can't have ice cream tonight, right? That's something that you expect from like a 4-year-old, right? They're not emotionally mature yet. They know that they're upset and they feel it very strongly. They have no way of regulating that or displaying that or expressing that. So they're 4 years old and they burst into tears. Well, you obviously don't want your 16 or 17-year-old, asking for the keys to the car and then being like, oh yeah, can I get ice cream on the way home? And you're like, no. And they fall to pieces and fall on the floor and scream and cry. Well, that's not an emotionally mature person. You'd be very concerned about them, right? That's what the internet and social media and all these spaces, it feels like it's what it's become. It's like it's always at a level 10. It's just emotion over thought. It's rage over nuance. It's sound bites over dialogue, and I don't know. I just there's not really a great way to combat it because like we're dialectical beings that have accepted the worst version of dialogue, and it's like what people prefer. It's like you're trying to sell like a very, very nutritious and well-made meal to people that have become addicted to candy bars. You know what I mean? It's like it's literally like taking a drink of a soda and then biting an apple. Well, the apple's going to taste like crap when you do that. That's what these environments have become. It's incredibly difficult to be like, well, let's have a dialogue. Let's have a debate. Let's look at the facts. Let's look at the info. Let's try to be intelligent about this. And the vast majority of people, when they engage with these spaces, that's not what they're looking for. They're looking for the candy bar. They're looking for the quick fix that like, oh, that was really exciting to yell and scream and cuss that person out on Twitter. Oh, I called that guy a shill and a pony. That made me feel real good. And it's like it's the equivalent of a non-emotion regulated child that throws a tantrum. It's like this is what you're going to do every day. But I mean, look at the people's feeds, look at their tweets, look at their replies, look at comment sections, look at live chats. Like it's just become the hallmark of these spaces. It's easier and it feels good to be non-charitable and just get mad. It's harder to be charitable and to do dialogue. Naturally, the better path takes effort. Right, you could even analyze it from that perspective, Mark, and you could say, well, yeah, path of least resistance. We're going to take the cheapest route to the dopamine hit, to the euphoric sense of satisfaction. We're going to take the cheapest route, and the cheapest route is, what you just kind of walked through. It's like, well, yeah, it doesn't take as much work. So it's the faster route to feeling smart. It's the faster route to feeling like you're correct or you're on the right side of something. And it's just become the hallmark of these spaces. So it's like you look at a situation like, putting ads in video games. One of the best things we would do is provide very, very good feedback and engagement and say, we don't want that, we don't like that. Now, within reason. Like if it's a completely free tier and they're going to show you an ad before streaming, I think it's fair to say, yes, this is an acceptable use of this. If they go beyond that and it starts to be disruptive, well, you're not going to be able to provide good feedback if you're just screaming about it or if you're just calling it. Here's a good example. If you just call it greedy, like that's what it's kind of like the pay to win discussion. It's like everything is greedy, everything is corporate greed. And if you try to talk about it from a business perspective, you're a corporate shill. Like that's kind of where, the dialogue has landed. And it's like, okay, so when we look at the Xbox situation, all right, they're adding this thing where you can stream games, you watch an ad, and then you can stream, a game for an hour, okay? Now, if I were to boot up this morning and I were to scream and yell and say, that's stupid, that's greedy, this is some kind of, corporate strategy to fleece us, well then I'm not actually saying anything. I'm not analyzing the situation. I'm not breaking it down from like a position of like, okay, could this be good? Could this be bad? What are the actual details, right? If I just booted up this morning and I was just like all FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt about it. Now, I certainly talked about how this is the beginning. Don't pretend that it's not. Advertisements will get put into more gaming spaces in the future. PlayStation will do it. Nintendo will do it. I think somebody rightly said live service games might consider doing it. We'll obviously see it would have to be a pretty good hefty payment because, like I said, I feel like the live service games want to promote their own thing. They want to promote, their skins or what have you. But you're going to do a far better job, I think, criticizing the thing if you're doing it, in earnest and you're doing it based on the facts instead of just yelling and screaming about it. It wouldn't have served any purpose. Now, that would have been a very easy thing to do. I could have made a video last night spreading misinformation, obfuscating the situation. I could have been like, ads in our games, angry face, big mean text on the thumb, make the video. You guys won't believe this. Xbox is gearing up and getting ready to put ads in your games. They're coming for your games. That video probably would have done pretty well. It would have. But it's like, to me, I absolutely do not want to make that kind of content. I tried this morning to be very balanced and measured about it. Here are the facts. Here's the official information. Here's why it's okay in its current version. But here's why I'm concerned they're cracking the seal. And they're like, yeah, this will probably show up in more ways and in more spaces. And my encouragement to the audience was provide feedback. When you engage with something like this, let them know what you do not like. It also depends on what ad gets shown. Do you have any say what is shown? If a Jesus is Us ad pops up during a new Dark Souls game, I don't know how I would feel. Like you're trying to play Diablo, and some guy pops up and he's like, hey, I see you're playing a game about the devil. Well, the devil's not cool, man. Like, that era of time where like faith can have its own version of cringe, probably pretty much every generation. There's probably cringy versions, right now. But there was an era of time where, like, it got pretty cringy in faith circles. It was like, Jesus is my homeboy t-shirts and stuff like that. And, like, I could just imagine that kind of stuff trying to show up now. You know what I mean? Like, the devil's not cool, man. We don't get down with the devil at First Baptist. Come to our evening service this week, and we'll tell you all about the devil. I mean, well, I'm just kidding. We'll tell you all about the Lord. You're like, wait, what? They start using Mystery Gap to try to get people to come to church. Oh, frick, I'm giving them ideas right now. No, don't do it. I'm just messing around. Nobody do that. That's bad. Just, gather and love on folks in a good and honest way. We don't need to be doing any of that crap. We can all agree that ads will absolutely be targeted based on what you're playing. Well, here's where I think you could have a healthy opportunity, but they probably already do this. Like, I was thinking, like, if you were playing Diablo 4 and they made you see something about Diablo 5 in the game, I'd be okay with that. But I think they kind of already do that with announcement boards. You know what I mean? I think they already do that with, like, announcement boards. Your mic keeps cutting in and out. Scott, I've got way too many people here for that to be a problem. That's probably on your end. I have almost 500 people watching. Across two platforms, close to 600 people watching. If my mic was cutting in and out, I'm pretty sure that I'd be getting rampant complaints. Classic Xander with a Prime sub. Thank you so much. Twitch is fine. I mean, I have almost 500 folks watching on YouTube. Nobody said a single thing, so it might be you. Maybe your headphone jack is not all the way in or something. They showed you the latest COD if you log into the old COD. Yeah, they're probably already doing that. I don't have a problem with that. I really, truly don't. It does not bother me at all if you're going to boot up a game, and when the game boots up, they give you a little splash screen that tells you about the new game or the DLC that they launched. I think that's totally fine. I don't think anybody really gets upset at that. Like, if you booted up Doom the Dark Ages and a little window popped up and said, hey, our DLC's available right now, that doesn't bother me one bit. I don't think there's any reason to be upset about that. I think that's very reasonable. That's a totally, like, sensible thing. I think the difference becomes when you load up, Doom the Dark Ages, or you load up, your recent God of War, and like the loading screen is like an advertisement for Coca-Cola or something. I think that would be very jarring and immersion breaking. $5 from the OA, a super chat says, would you guys be more okay with ads before or during play sessions or product placement in games? If you're making me choose between the two, I would much rather have an ad pop up at the beginning of a play session, because I could just like turn the game on and do something else while I wait for everything to, get ready. Product placement in the game, you know what I'm saying? Like if I'm playing the latest Assassin's Creed and all of a sudden we go out of the Animus and the guy's holding like an Apple iPad and drinking a Coke, and he's like, oh, that's refreshing. I'm so glad I have my Apple iPad 75 right now with enhanced Wi-Fi capabilities to check on your vitals. I'd be like, what the frick? Like that would be absolutely terrible. If you know what I'm saying? Like if you play an ad before a game runs, like I don't really care. I'm like, I would hate that. I'm not advocating for that at all. But if you're making me choose between the two, I would not want product placement in the game, because now you're injecting it into the experience. It's infecting that world in that game. I am absolutely loving Black Flag, by the way. Just fantastic. And I'm just playing it in a way that I haven't really played a video game in a long time. I'm not role-playing, but I'm just acting like... I kind of am acting like I'm role-playing. I'm like, what would I do in this scenario, right? Would I explore? Would I get on the boat? Would I scrounge for loot? Like, I'm building a video in my mind right now about how I think lots of people are playing video games the wrong way. I think you're playing it, and I'm guilty of this in many instances. I'm playing it to get through it rather than playing it to experience it. Like, come on. Some of you guys got to admit to this. You know you're doing it. You're playing it to get through it rather than to experience it. And I don't know if that's because, well, I bought it and I got to get the value out of it, or I got to finish this before the next game comes out, so you have this false urgency because you don't want to not be playing the next game that comes out. I don't know what it is, but I know for a fact I've been enjoying Black Flag more because I'm like, I'm not going to just try to complete this. I want to experience this. I want to just like be in this world. Does that make sense? That's why I started doing going for platinums. It helps me experience the game instead of just playing it to beat it. That is so interesting, Mayhem. That is extremely interesting that you're doing something that to me would hurt my experience, but it's making you slow down. That's very interesting that you're like, oh, I'm going to go for the platinum and it makes me slow down, and then I actually experience the game and enjoy it more. I would have the opposite experience if I tried to platinum something, because I would be focusing on like arbitrary things to get the trophies, and I would feel like I'm not playing the game anymore. But whatever works, brother. More power to you. If you feel like you're enjoying games at a deeper level and not just playing them to play them. Platinums do the opposite. That's what I'm saying, Loot. I think that's what platinums would do to me. I would feel like I'm just doing this. I got to check these boxes. Instead of just being like, slow down. Listen, I'm going to tell you something else. Put your dadgum phone down. That's right. I know you're doing it. I know. You right there. You're doing it. Put your dadgum phone down when you're gaming. Like, take it, put it face down, silence it, and just game for a couple hours. You know what I mean? Stop letting yourself be ripped out of the game every 30 seconds because of a little chingering on social media or a text or something. Take an hour. Take 2 hours. Just turn that crap off and just play. I mean it. I really do think some of the reasons we're getting maybe a little jaded, maybe a little burned out, maybe games don't impact us like they used to, I think it's because of how we play them. I really do. You don't even watch your shows anymore. You don't. I know you don't, because I'm guilty of it and I had to break the habit. You don't even do that. You're on your phone while the program's going. You're like, oh, that was funny. Yeah. Like, put your dadgum phone down when you're engaging with the show or a game. If you're playing a board game with your family, do the same thing. I mean it. Doom scrolling messes up some of my sessions. You're never going to get into the flow state or the immersive state. You're never going to get into that state. Like, that's what I did last time with Black Flag. I set my phone to the side. I was like, I'm not checking Twitter. I'm not checking the feeds. I'm just going to play this dadgum game. And like an hour or two later, I was like, oh shoot, it's getting kind of late. You know, I better shut this off, or I'm going to be here. I'm going to be playing this all night. You played 007 just to get through it. I'm telling you, I really do think people that are in that funk of gaming, like you're kind of stuck in a funk, you got to play a game, and instead of, don't force it, like if you're not enjoying it, but like just let the game just be that thing that you're doing and nothing else for a little bit. Maybe just an hour, and just see if you feel different at the end of the session. I don't know. I feel like a lot of these conversations and a lot of reasons people are so angry and so not enjoying. I just think you're so media addled, like your brain is just so inundated. It makes it hard to enjoy anything. To your point about platinums, it really depends on how the trophy structure is set up. A game like Spider-Man 2 really blends trophies well with the flow state. That's true. Not all platinums are equal. Some are going to be better than others. Metroidvanias are good platinums, says Loot. Those games are kind of designed around finding collectibles in a good way. Right, the trophies feel a lot more congruent to what you're doing in a Metroidvania. Clearing the map, opening all the doors, getting all the little things. Yeah, a trophy's more congruent and more like in line with that than like an open world game where you're like, oh, for Pete's sakes, I don't want to dive and find one more thing. You know what I mean? Like it can be game dependent. That's definitely true. This is how you need to approach Crimson Desert. I can't approach Crimson Desert because if I approach Crimson Desert, I literally don't have time for certain games. Like, I'm saying this, and what this means is there's certain games I won't touch for that reason. I know I won't be able to extract the value out of it. If you are limited on time, I do think you have to make almost like very prudent and discerning choices about what you're going to play. If there's too many ads, people's attentions diverts to something more entertaining. So adding ads to things that are supposed to be entertaining that you pay for will just turn people off. Oh, for sure. Yo, good morning, Feed. I see you in the chat. You're in that flow state with Crimson Desert. Yeah, I don't think... What I'm saying doesn't mean you can play every single game. When a game is going to demand... Like, let's just take Assassin's Creed Valhalla as another example. It's like a Crimson Desert where to extract the value out of the game, you're going to have to give it about 100 hours easy. Right? Wild Day Wow with 6 months of memberships, resubscribing on Twitch. Thank you, putting us at 215. We are a 10 bomb away from me owing you guys a member. Every 25, I gift one back. And remember, it's a competition between Twitch and YouTube. Whoever hits it gets it. So, it's there for the stealing. Expedition 33 was definitely a flow state game for me. Yeah, for me, Expedition 33... I was so into the story. This happens with me sometimes. I want to move the story along, and I don't want to go do like all the extra exploratory stuff. I just want to know like what happens next. It's kind of like when you're watching a show and then one episode starts to focus on some other characters, and you're like, come on, like you want to get back to the main story. Yeah, I'll be on the roundtable today, Haseo. Why would anybody put over 100 in Valhalla? I think you're saying that because you probably put in way more than that. That would be my guess. I'm at 300 hours and I'm still finding new things. It's insane. Yeah, I simply can't do that. My life's not conducive to playing a game like that right now. And I appreciate people that are doing that with Crimson or Valhalla or other games. Guys, make sure and hit the like button. Let's get to 200 likes before the 2-hour mark. You got 60 seconds to do it. And I will be on the roundtable today. I can give you guys that countdown. Today's date is the 24th. Set, start, show. There you go. We got 2.5 hours. You got the platinum. Yeah, you're a freaking madman. I mean, that you're an absolute madman if you got the platinum in Valhalla. Valhalla's like 300 hours if you want the completion. Yeah, that's just absurd. That's like a mini live service game. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I know. I'm not gonna say ain't nobody got time for that, but I don't got time for that. Love seeing you on the round table. Thank you. This is the essence of true role playing, says Dudeness. Games can be anything. But my favorite are RPGs. I have 1,000 hours in Skyrim, and I've never beaten the main quest. My character is never going to leave Skyrim. Yeah, I always run out of gas, though, eventually. I mean, even in Yote, I was like 60-something hours. I was like, I'm good. That was amazing. I loved every second of it. And then I went and played Legends, and I did every single thing on Legends, and I never went back to Legends because I didn't think the boss fights were particularly enjoyable. I thought the missions were more enjoyable in Yote Legends. Reforge, thoughts on the new Wolverine trailer? To me, it's perfect. Excited for the God of War update. Here's the interesting thing about what's going on with Wolverine. What's his name? Kyle Boseman? I don't remember how to say his last name now. I think he's hilarious. He's very, very funny. He's got a great YouTube channel. His videos are called Delayed Input. And he talked about how, like, Wolverine looks good, but Wolverine doesn't look cool. It's Boseman? Kyle Boseman. I actually think it's probably historically pronounced Bozeman, but because he's like me, like a kind of a smaller, nerdy guy, you know what I mean? I think he's convinced everybody that it's pronounced Bossman because he wants to elevate his status. So, listen, I know that's drama, but that's just what I think. I'm kidding. Anyways, but he made a video and he was like, it looks good, but Wolverine doesn't look cool. Here's the problem with that take. He looks like the actor. And I think the actor looks pretty cool. I think we're doing a little bit. Now, I will admit, some of the pictures look a little derpy. I don't know what's going on with some of the pictures. Like, I watched the new trailer and I was like, oh, he looks great. I don't know what those screenshots were that they sent to Entertainment Weekly where he looks almost cross-eyed. I don't know what they're doing there. I don't know why they do that. Like, he genuinely looks kind of bad in some of those pictures. But then in the latest trailer, I was like, oh, he looks fine. But the issue is we're doing a teeny bit of the Guardians of the Galaxy thing. When the Guardians of the Galaxy game came out, there were people like, it doesn't look like Guardians of the Galaxy. Because they want it to be like Chris Pratt. Okay? Here's the thing. Everybody's so used to, grizzled, gruff Hugh Jackman or the Uncanny X-Men cartoon that, like, having a rendition that looks like that actor, everyone's like, oh, he doesn't look right. And I'm like, but it looks like the actor. What did you want them to do? Like, get him, hire him, do mocap, and make him look like Hugh? Like, that would be stupid. That wouldn't make any sense. Do you see? Like, I don't think it's that it looks bad. I think some of it is that we're wanting it to be like what we've always seen instead of it being a new look for Wolverine. Like, it's like, no, it's a new guy. Yo, 50 months from TaylorMade. Add it to the total. I don't know why every game the lead hero needs to look like the voice actor. Well, they don't do that every time. They don't do that every time. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. And yeah, and people are going in and making him look more angry and more gruff. But they're also, what's interesting here is people are also cherry picking. They're cherry picking. The very first Wolverine trailer gave us animalistic Wolverine. Angry, snarling, growling Wolverine. Like, the original trailer from way, way back when. Like, I think people are cherry picking. It's like, oh, there's pictures of him where he's not, like this right here. This face, this snarly, bloody, angry face, where he also has a beard. I think the beard helps. There's going to be different times in his life. Some of those are going to be flashbacks where he's going to look less animalistic. Here's something people don't understand. Part of his character arc is quite literally like he's fighting against being a weapon and being just this brute force of nature animal. And like, you'll have scenes where like, oh wow, he's actually trying not to be that all the time. Like, he's not trying to be a snarling, raging ball of anger every scene, everywhere he goes. So like, the range of his character, yeah, you're gonna have this, and then you're gonna have that's a terrible picture. Let me get my pictures. I'll admit some of the pictures look cross-eyed, but that's not mainly what people are taking issue. They're taking issue with, like, they're trying to make him look like he's like genteel or something, and it's like, no. The original trailers, he looked wild and crazy and snarly. And then there's going to be scenes like this where he's like, the Logan side of him exists, boys. He's not just Wolverine. He also has a name. His name is Logan. So like, that can also be this. You can have both. That's called range. That's called progression or transformation of the character. You know what I'm saying? Like, this right here, becoming this, is actually kind of dope. Because it's like, oh, dang. Like, when you push this guy to the edge, he becomes a monster. He becomes terrifying. If he always looks like that, then it doesn't have as much potency. It doesn't have as much impact. It doesn't seem like a transformation. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like people are forgetting what I want to find the first trailer, because when he rips that guy, he's literally snarling like an animal in the very, very first trailer. It's like he's cornered and they're trying to get him. He's like it's like a snowy scene, I think. Not behind the claws. I want the original trailer. Can somebody find me the original trailer? It's like really, really difficult to find for some reason all of a sudden. I've got all the new ones. I've got Story, Ain't No Hero, a State of Play playlist. Yeah, I've got Behind the Claws. There was a trailer before all that. It was the one where it was like fling, fling, like it opens with his blades cutting people. People are taking issues with anything and everything. Yeah, I get why people are looking at some of the pictures. Like, listen, I get it. I don't know why they sent this picture. Listen, whoever sent this picture to Entertainment Weekly, like, you should tell that person, hey, maybe we shouldn't send that picture. That's kind of one of those awkward shots where, like, he looks a little cross-eyed, like his eyes don't look quite right, like they're not really the same size. Like, that's an awkward shot, okay? That's an awkward shot. I definitely think they shouldn't have sent some of those pictures to Entertainment Weekly, because they literally sent trailers that didn't look good. What's the first official trailer? How old is it? Is it the one? Is it this one? No, it's not this one. This might be it. Yeah, right here. You see what I'm saying? This entire sequence right here, where he looks like this, that has so much more impact because he's not like that all of the time. Like, I don't know. I just don't know if there's a high degree of media literacy. It's like, yeah, yep, he looks like this. This is Logan. This is this guy trying to retain his humanity, but he can also look like this. Like, you know what I'm saying? I think people are being very one-sided and nitpicky. They're not looking at the entirety of the marketing. They're not looking at the entirety of all of the footage we have of him. They're looking at a couple of screenshots, and they're like, why does he look like that? Why does he look so calm and genteel? And even Kyle Bosman's recent video, he's like, why don't we see him with the mask on that much? And it's like, go back and look at the original trailer. He's got his mask on here, there, right here they zoom in on his mask. He's got his mask on the whole time. Yeah, in the recent trailer, his mask's off a lot. But again, I think they're trying to show you the range of the game. It's not just going to be put on the yellow suit and go slice and dice everybody. Some of it's going to be he gets interrupted when he's at a bar, and so he's got a cowboy hat on, or he's at a party and he's got a tuxedo and an eye patch on. Or here he's fighting Omega Red, so he's got his outfit on. You know, and here he's been pushed to the limits. He's got his jacket on, he's out, and this is that animal side of him coming out where he's a terrifying force of nature. I think people are being really, really one-sided. They're letting a couple of screenshots make it seem like, oh, they neutered him and he's going to be like a gentle, in need of therapy Wolverine, you know? And all the comments about like Jean Grey and the game going woke, and then in the latest trailer, it's like, I don't know how you could say that. I don't know how you could say that. This does not look like a game that's taking the female character and going in the direction that everybody hates. This is the opposite direction of what a lot of these guys were concerned and worried about. Very, very classic, like, you know, artistic interpretation, you know, of a woman in comic books. Form-fitting, plunging neckline, like all of that. I'm like, that's comic books for you. Have you been watching X-Men 97? No, I have not. Mask No Mask is going to be awesome. There is a ton of footage from Wolverine. I am not concerned at all that they've, like, made him gentle and, like... Because, again, Kyle Bosman's video, he's, like, watching and he's like, yeah, it looks like he's like, don't say anything mean to me. And I'm like, but go watch the original announcement trailer. He sounds and looks like an animal. That's the point. The entire point is that you're going to get that swing of, like, Logan. This juxtaposition, this tension, this character tension exists for him in the original movies with Hugh Jackman, where, like, he's trying to be the nice guy and he's trying to be with Jean. And it's also like, but you're also this horrendously violent animal. Like, you're both. And that's always been a part of the storyline of Wolverine, is like, where does Logan end and Wolverine begin? And I think this game is showing you there's going to be a past and a history and a human side of him that is also fighting against him losing himself. Like, his eyes are yellow in the one scene. Like, that's a common trope in these types of stories, where don't lose yourself in your powers and in the persona or in the mutation. Like, you've got to maintain who you are underneath, which is he's still Logan at the end of the day. Similar to Kratos' loving father. Yeah, Wolverine's a simp, always has been. Yeah, it's they've never really tried to avoid the idea of, like, he's crushing on Jean and it really affects his story arc. People whining about Wolverine's looks and Wolverine just want to goon over them. I don't think that's what it is. I will 100% admit that some of the pictures that they sent to Entertainment Weekly didn't look very good. They didn't look good. They didn't. He looks derpy. Like, the pictures that I posted, I don't think he looks derpy in the pictures that I posted. He just looks like a guy. He doesn't look like he's out there ripping and tearing. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with these pictures. These are from the most recent trailer. This is just them showing you the human side of him. This is what the actor looks like, okay? And yeah, he doesn't look very threatening with, like, feathered soft hair, you know, and like, look at this, like they're getting ready to kiss. You know what I'm saying? No, he doesn't look very threatening there, but that makes his transformation all the more potent and powerful. You know, it does. It would be like looking at, like, a trailer for The Matrix and being like, Neo looks so lame in that dirty sweater and with his shaved head. He looks malnutrition. But then that juxtaposition of what he looks like outside and in The Matrix is an entire aspect of what makes that movie so cool. It's like, once they're in The Matrix, they all look so dope, and when they're out of The Matrix, they look like a bunch of orphans. It's like, because of what they're living in and the reality of it. Like, having that type of a contrast, I think, is actually quite good. So I think people are overreacting. They're also ignoring the other trailers. I think they're they're being real one-dimensional with it. Like, grab a couple screenshots and, it's the tried and true content method. You grab the worst screenshots, make a video, make money, do it again the next week. So, go back to the first picture. It looks like he came from Final Fantasy. Which one? The one with the yellow eyes? Loan on my last. You think that's super important for me to go back and read? That's requiring a walk back, a tread back. I hate Lady Deathstrike's look in the new game, though. I think there needs to be a meet me halfway point with her design. She's not supposed to be overly sexy, but also not like a prune either. You barely get to see her. I wouldn't jump to those conclusions. People did that with Jean. She showed up in a leather jacket, and then you see her later, and she's in like a plunging neckline, super revealing outfit. She's in an open back dress later on. I wouldn't jump to conclusions based on like a couple of shots that we've seen. If you take Logan out of the game and put Peter, you'll think it's Spider-Man 3. Wolverine needs the dark tone aesthetic like Origins. I think if your opinion is that if you take Logan out of these trailers and put in Peter, you would think it's Spider-Man 3. I think you're baiting. I don't think you're being honest. That it is a bloody, gruesome, gory mess in all the footage they've shown us. The art, aesthetic, and style is nothing like Spider-Man. I just think you're baiting. I don't feel like that's a genuine opinion. I'm testing the network on PS5, PSN. Yeah, AWS is having a massive outage. It's affecting PSN. Yeah. Matrix is a metaphor for how real life versus online. It is a metaphor of that, but it's also part of what makes it so cool when they're in the Matrix. Like from a visual, from a storytelling perspective, it has a lot of impact. It's cool. I think it's great. I think you'll see similar things in Wolverine. Yeah. Yep. Bro, aesthetics are important. Yeah, I don't think you're representing the aesthetics of Wolverine at all. I think you're baiting. If you played Origins, you'll understand. No, I get. I think you're baiting. I don't think at all. Yeah, your account's 5 months old. I was dead on right. You're just in here baiting on an alt account. Anybody watching the gameplay from Wolverine thinking it looks like Spider-Man, like if you just swapped out Wolverine for Spider-Man, that's not honest. You're just trying to bait. Super weak bait, bro. It visually looks like Spider-Man, but reminds me a lot of it. I mean, a comic book game set in the real world looking like another comic book game set in the real world, again, doesn't mean it looks like Spider-Man. I don't agree with that. The enemies are different. The setting is different. The tone is different. The combat's different. The gore and violence level is completely different. I just don't agree. It's Insomniac's style. That'd be like saying that Lao Fei looks an awful lot like God of War. Yeah, it's from the same studio and basically in the same universe. So they're using the same engine, probably using some assets like trees and bushes and walls and stuff. But that doesn't mean it looks like Spider-Man. That's where it becomes a disingenuous take. It's like you're saying something to try to make people get upset. Like that's what that guy was doing. He was on a 5-month-old account. Like I smelled the bait from a mile away. It was just designed to get people irritated. It wasn't a genuine opinion. I'm just finding that I'm not interested in Wolverine. I don't have the urge to watch any of the trailers. Well, not being interested in it is totally fine and totally normal. I also wonder, is 2026 going to be a strange year in that regard? Like, is 2026 going to be a year where you skip games that you historically would have been there day one? Because it's just like there's so many games. It's almost like, it's kind of like what happens to us when there is all these terrible things happening in the globe and you stop feeling anything about it, right? Because it's like it's every day. It's like every day a tornado is destroying a home. Every day people are... So it's like it's hard to care. I think something similar is happening with entertainment and gaming this year especially. Is like there's so many games, you couldn't possibly be excited about all of them. I don't think that's possible. It's not. A lot of the times when I start listing all the games I'm looking forward to and I'm excited about, Wolverine's the one I forget because it's just sort of an assumed game for me. It's like, yeah, I'm definitely going to play it. I'm excited. I like Wolverine. I like Insomniac games. But, like, I look at Onimusha. I look at Control Resonant. And I look at Castlevania Belmont's Curse. And I'm like, oh, yeah, dude. Can't wait. Like, you can't have that level of excitement and enthusiasm about every single game. I don't think it's possible. I think there are so many games. Now, I want you to imagine, thin out the calendar. If Wolverine was like one of the only big games this year, I bet you might, I don't know you, but you might feel different. You might be like, bro, that game looks sick, because you didn't just finish watching like 7 other trailers for 7 other big games. I find it strange I'm not excited at all for Wolverine. I'm even more excited for Control. Here's another aspect of it. It's not going to play like Spider-Man, and it's not going to play like Batman, but you are 100%, okay? You are 100% going to feel some level of familiarity with any superhero game. You just are. There's this sense of like, yeah, I've played a game like that before. I think first-person shooters are going through the same thing. Somebody was watching me play Halo Campaign Evolved yesterday, and they said, I just can't get enthused about first-person shooters anymore. I think for some people that's happening with superhero games. They're like, yeah, it looks great. It looks well built, but you struggle to get excited about a superhero game. I think there are people experiencing that with, Souls games. I think people are experiencing that with open world games. You know it. You see an open world. You see the opportunity for like a really stuffed map, and you're just like, I don't know if I want to do that. Like, and it has nothing to do with the game. You just almost feel fatigued before you even get into the game. And I think that's probably happening for some people with hero games. Like, you played all the Batman games. There's like 4 or 5 of them. There's 3 or 4 of them worth playing. You've played Spider-Man 1 and 2 and Miles. And then you look at Wolverine, you're like, yeah, it looks good. But you're not like over the moon. Does that make sense? You're like, yeah, that looks good. But then you see something like Control Resonant, and you're like, I've never played anything like that before. I mean, you've played Control, but you've not played Control Resonant, where you're like changing the gravity and hopping on the walls and the ceilings, and you've got like a giant hammer, and then it's 2 swords. Like, it looks very creative and very new. Especially the Sony first-party open world stuff. Both Ghost games were turnoffs due to the open world fatigue. And I wouldn't even say that they've been guilty of open world fatigue, MTO. It's just, what is it, Horizon and Spider-Man. Like, Ratchet was very linear and not open world. It was more like open zone. God of War wasn't really open world. Astrobot wasn't open world. You know, it's like I think they have like a really, really good mix. Like, Horizon and Spider-Man are their 2 like big open world games. Like the Uncharted games, the Last of Us games are more linear. Feet on Land says they will say PlayStation games all feel the same, and then they'll cream their pants for Fallout, which was basically the same game for 2 decades. Well, I think sometimes bias is playing a pretty strong role there. Now, it might be a bad faith bias where they just say everything that PlayStation does looks the same, and that who really cares? Like, that's just an empty and vapid. That's a bumper sticker. Like, they all say, yeah, they all look the same, movie games. Who cares what those people say? They're probably LARPers and frauds anyway who don't even play the games because they don't play the same or feel the same. But there are people who are going to have a bias for Bethesda, and Bethesda's always going to tug at their heartstrings. There are people who really went the distance with Starfield, and I don't get it at all. It was such a subpar, mediocre, I would argue maybe even a bad game. And man, they were in there and they really went the distance. Why? They speak that language. They're Bethesdians, as I call them. The difficulty is discerning the difference between bias that is sort of owned and on the surface and a bias that's bad faith. Like, I own my bias. I'm like, y'all know I like a third-person game with a sword and some parries. Like, I just straight up say that. Like, one of the reasons I'm really excited about Onimusha, I tell people, I'm like, y'all know me? You give me a sword and some parries, and I'm there. Rise of the Ronin, Tsushima, Yote, Sekiro, First Berserker Kazan, Stellar Blade. Like, dude, give me the frickin', give me it. Give me that sword. That I own that bias. I don't try to hide that. I think that's just like an honest, right on the front bias. But then there's like bias that's bad faith. Oh yeah, all Sony games are the same. They're just movie games. That's just a bad faith thing. They're not saying anything of substance. They're not expressing a preference. They're not even being critical because the games are so completely and utterly different. Like, I guarantee you there's people that adore God of War and they got bored in Horizon Forbidden West and vice versa. There's probably people who thought, you know, Tsushima and Yote were amazing and they didn't have any desire to play Horizon. That's just a preference thing. That's just but that right there demonstrates that the games are not at all the same. They're all the same. I'll probably get fatigued with melee games and parry one day. One day it'll happen. I got fatigued with first-person shooters. It'll happen. I think it'll take a lot longer because I lived in first-person shooters. That also has an effect on you, by the way. When you live in a game, I lived in Call of Duty. That was after living in Quake. And then I lived in Borderlands. And then I lived in Destiny. Well, that's thousands upon thousands upon thousands of hours just shooting, reloading, shooting, reloading. Different scenario, different guns, different enemies. It's going to take me longer to get there because in between playing Yote, I've played games like, you know, what did I play this year? 007 First Light, Pragmata, RE9. Yeah, I'm going to try Beast of Reincarnation. Yeah. Yep. So I think that's a nice thing about the current sort of era of gaming that we're in is I'm able to just bounce. Like, I can go from playing like Mario Galaxy to Resident Evil 9. I can go from playing like Doom the Dark Ages to I was playing like Astral Ascent with my wife. When did you begin falling out of love with Souls games? I don't think I ever fell in love with them. I don't think I ever fell in love with them. I wanted to give them the fairest shot that I could, so I played Dark Souls 3, and then I played Sekiro, and then I played Elden Ring. And the only one out of the bunch that I loved, and I think is a stellar, well-built game, like in all aspects, is Sekiro. Dark Souls 3, I don't remember having too many quibbles with that one, actually. I have more criticisms for Elden Ring. And I had somebody get in my comments, and they were like, all Sekiro is mashing parry until you attack. And I'm like, okay, that's not at all how Sekiro works. There's an entire interplay between people whose posture is broken faster by parries versus damage. There's all the arts that I didn't really use, but you can use I forget what they're called, the shinobi arts or whatever they're called. You can do that. It's not mashing parry until it's time to attack. I mean, ironically, very much if you watch people do like no-hit runs in Elden Ring and like super challenging playthroughs of Elden Ring, it's literally roll on the ground until punish window. Sekiro isn't a Souls game. That's true, but I mean, it's from FromSoft. So like I was playing those games to get into Elden Ring. That's why I was playing them. So yeah, from the purist standpoint, you would never say that Sekiro is a Souls game. You would say it's a FromSoft game. It has a lot of their hallmarks, but it's not a Souls game. So I don't think I ever fell in love with them though. I just didn't. Elden Ring went from like romancing me to spitting in my face. That's what it felt like. I thought the beginning of Elden Ring was perfection, just open world exploratory purpose and beauty, and just it was great. And then the second half for me, it just falls apart. And people disagree. They're free to disagree. There are people that think it's amazing. They love it. They think the second half is the best. I just don't. I think the second half, just the wheels completely fall off. It's a lot of area of effect. It's a lot of very spammy attacks. And a lot of enemies that just, a lot of bosses that just straight up run from you. I don't enjoy that. I don't. I find it to be very annoying. That's just my take. I have my own. That's probably why I like Sekiro. Stand and deliver. You know what I mean? You got to stand and fight. So, if you want to shut the no physical, no buy crowd up, Bloodborne 2. I mean, I don't know if Bloodborne 2 would completely change the dialogue around that. I don't know if it would change dialogue around that. I think in general, a lot of that is kind of what we've been talking about. I think you have a lot of people in the mix that are, there's a lot of bad faith. A lot of people are just doing it because it's fun. It's just fun to bash. It's just fun to hate. I think there are people that are genuinely upset. I had to mute a couple mutuals because I just couldn't take it. I couldn't take it. It was like every single time PlayStation did anything, they would spam FU or, give us physical, and it was just like, I don't need this on my timeline. Like, I get that you're upset, but like, that's not what I use Twitter for. I don't use Twitter to see perpetual outrage. I just don't, especially when I don't agree with it. Like, I'm not at your level of anger about this. I'm not. And I know people really, really struggle to understand that I can be upset for you. Like, yep, I'm bummed. That stinks. I'm not going to hit your level of emotional fervor about it. It would be like if you worked really hard on some model set and you were showing it to me. I'm like, dude, that's so cool. And then you dropped it on the ground and it broke and it was like a mistake. I would not feel nearly as emotionally upset as you. I wouldn't be able to. I'm not as invested in it. I'd be like, oh my gosh, that sucks, bro. You would be devastated. And I think that's one of the dilemmas is people come and they're like, you're not as upset as me. And it's like, yeah, I don't have the ability to. I'm not as invested in this as you are. I don't have this massive physical collection. So then they just assume that because I'm like, yeah, I'm not paying lip service. I don't know if anybody's ever thought that I do that. Have I ever given the impression that I give lip service to the mob? I would never debase myself. I don't care what the mob thinks. I don't. The mob can frick off, okay? Y'all know my opinions on the mob. It's usually a mindless group of people that don't even really truly understand what's going on, but it's just fun to be a part of the crowd. I genuinely meant it when I said this is a massive L. You've been selling physical drives to people. This gen, you've been selling them drives. What are they supposed to do with their back compat? But then I can also be like, I understand the business side of this. I get why this is happening, and I think that we've got a better fight to fight. Like, that nuance just gets like lost because it's like, well, you're either at my level of anger and against this, or you're a shill, and it's like, that's just a false dichotomy. That's a false binary, commonly used by people who either want to make content that's hateful so they can label you, or they just lack the ability to enter the conversation outside of just sharp categories. You're either a this or a this. Like, they don't have the intellectual capacity to think beyond that. And it's like, you do that for yourself, though. You give yourself a whole lot of grace in a lot of these areas. Whether it's anger about the physical, or Xbox putting ads in the streaming service, or a game company deciding to go a different route, or, oh, I'm so sick of remakes. Like, whatever it is that's got people angry, I just feel like it's like, not everybody's going to match your level of anger about every situation. Because, like, okay, so Halo campaign evolved. I gave you guys my first impressions on it, right? And I think the performance issues are a reason to wait. I do. I think that's a reason to wait. Because it's pretty disruptive to the combat. There are other people that are going to be like, dude, what are you saying? It's so good. Who cares about that? Right? I don't expect you to match my level of, like, yeah, I think that's a good enough reason to wait because it's so disruptive to the combat. You don't have to match my level of disappointment or even like caution about that. You know what I mean? Telling Sony once and moving on is not a real stance. There is nuance for sure, but expecting others to stop being upset is disregarding said nuance. I never said I expected them to be upset. Never said that once. I mean, that's another thing that happens in this conversation is like you're responding to something I never said. I never said I expect people to stop being upset. I said I don't use Twitter to see perpetual outrage. It's been weeks. And it's like people are still doing it. It's like why do I want to see that in my feed? You know what I mean? Like what are you going to do that every day, like everyday Disney posts? Like if I follow Disney to stay up to date on their stuff, and every day that Disney posts, what if I did that? You followed me, and every day that Disney posted, I yelled at them for how bad I thought Star Wars it was or Obi-Wan was. You'd get tired of that. You'd be like, dude, what the heck? I didn't follow you so I could see perpetual. It's copy paste. It's the same thing every time. To be fair, your first review was near perfection. Then immediately after, you got past the first section of the game and everything hit the fan. So it was under further review, not a first impression. You're saying the same thing. First impressions, further review. I played the game for 2 hours. That would be a first impressions video. I mean, we don't need to get pedantic about that kind of terminology. It's a first impressions, brother. I played it for 2 hours. What else did you call? What would you call that? It's not. I mean, I guess you could call it a review in progress. It's first impressions. It was 2 hours. I was like, you know, it was dope, and then it was this is a little rough, and then it got worse. Now there could be a memory leak because it seemingly got worse the more I played. So there also could be a memory leak that needs to be resolved. You know, perhaps, or it's just the lighting, or it's unreal. I mean, it could be any number of things. I can't believe the anger in the post comments is still going. I wish people were this vocal about important issues. I need Sony to guarantee 100% ownership and refunds. I'm not going to constantly rage post on Blue Sky, YouTube, and whatnot. I'm not wasting my energy on it. Same. So, Mr. Joe Peach says, MBG just quoted the fact that PSN is down and asked how we feel about digital. It had that again. It has no effect on digital as long as you've got your console set to offline. Like, yes, if you want to go right now and buy a digital game, you are not able to. But you're creating a very, very false sense of reality if you're making people think that they can't play their games when PSN is down. Now, you can't play live service games when PSN is down, but that is not even remotely related to the digital-only conversation. Live service games are in a completely separate category. Right now, I can take my wife's PlayStation and unplug it from the internet, and I can play any game I want. Like, I can. You just do it. Yeah, AWS is down. Amazon Web Services is down. It's affecting PSN and other websites. So it's like, I get that people don't like an all-digital future, but PSN being down has nothing to do with the ability to play your digital games. Now, you could say, yes, but, Lono, I could play all my physical games. I left a comment on a video this morning that I found to be remarkable. And I don't ordinarily leave comments on videos. I usually just watch and move on. But his name is Timur Hussein, and he makes a video, and he talks about, you know, the fight for physical or whatever, and he uses that to talk about game preservation. So as soon as you do that, to me, you've just completely lost the plot, because I'm like, okay, you're worried about game preservation. Okay. What are you going to do about the overwhelming vast majority of games that don't ever ship physical and haven't for years? How are we going to preserve those games? We're going to do it with physical? You're worried about the smallest percentage of game launches, by the way. You are. Vast majority of games that ship are digital only. There's an ocean of indie titles, AA titles, smaller studio titles, and then there's all the stuff that only launches on Steam. and there's the stuff that launches on Nintendo digital only. There is way more digital only releases every year and every month. If you cared about if you cared about game preservation, why are you suddenly only talking about this now? Why have you been talking about this entire time this has been going on? He goes on in his video to recommend another video that's about jailbreaking a PlayStation as a means of basically being able to pirate the games and steal the games. And he says, legally I can't endorse this, but it's a very important video. And he does this this knowing look at the camera. It's like a wink, wink, nudge, nudge, like, yay, piracy. And I'm like, okay. So we go from being concerned about preservation, even though you seemingly don't care at all about the ocean of AA and indie titles that launch digital only. We don't care about the smaller studios who can't afford physical releases. They apparently don't matter at all. Even though we sing their praises and talk about the indie renaissance and the AA renaissance, we throw confetti in the air for that. But we seemingly immediately forget them when we start talking about preservation, because apparently the only way to preserve games is physical. I'm sorry, it's not a very good position. It's not thought out. This position's so wonky and so lopsided. It's like there's way more games that don't even have physical releases. Where's your outcry and bleeding heart for all those studios in game preservation? And then you're gonna passively promote piracy? Something that would actively hurt the smaller studios first, because they would be the quickest to feel the pain of lowered or diminished sales. AA studios and indie titles are the ones that would feel it the worst if they suddenly took a big hit, because all of a sudden it's really easy to steal games. It's like the logical leaps here, they're not even leaps. They're contortionist acts. It's like, what are you doing? It's like, if you cared about preservation, you're only now talking about it? So you're worried about preserving the smallest portion of game launches, the big AAA titles, that's what you're worried about preserving? And even within physical releases, not every game releases where the entire game is on the disc. It's weird to me. It's like, roughly 73% of physical releases, the entire game is on the disc. Okay, so roughly 25% of physical releases cannot be preserved. They can't be, because the game's not on the disc. So about 25%. Then you have the ocean of AA and indie titles. They can't be preserved because they're digital only. And you're going to passively promote jailbreaking a PlayStation, which would enable people to pirate games. This entire conversation is being hijacked by people that will just grab the talking points, repeat the talking points, and create all this headcanon this is about preservation. How's it about preservation? How are you going to preserve all these other games that don't have physical copies? What are you going to preserve if you promote piracy and game companies don't make enough money? Just wanton theft and jailbreaking PlayStations and piracy. Encouraging more and more people to do that. Thousands upon thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of people learning how to do that and doing that. What are you going to preserve if people do that, and then indie titles, smaller studios are like, it's hard to sell games now, man. People are stealing them. Emulation and piracy are the best preservation because we need to have a version of the game with no DRM, no internet checks, etc. to fully preserve it, with no strings attached. I mean, that's really, really great window dressing on a house built on lies, because that's a really, really impressive, way to put on a great show, but that's not really what people are trying to do. They're trying to go against PlayStation, and what they don't realize is most of the games that you are upset about being digital only, they're already in the market. They're already out there. They're already AA and indie titles that you have no means of owning. And if you want to start going we're going to rip the DRM, we're going to pirate it and emulate it, you're cracking the very edifice that these games stand on. You're going to make it easy for people to steal the games, and then when you do that, that can lead to absolute ramifications that cannot be put back into the box. You can't close Pandora's box once you crack that sucker open. And being like, oh, I'm mad that the economic realities facing physical's coming to an end. I'm going to encourage people to figure out how to basically steal games. What the huh? What the logical leap there, like I said, it's not even a logical leap, it's a contortionist act. It's like you're jumping to a completely different train of thought. True preservation would be fighting for right to refund and right to non-revocable digital games, not jailbreaking and piracy. You're basically like, I don't like this company's return policy, so let's just steal from them. It's like, whoa. You can't pick up the phone. You can't talk to management. You can't talk to the owners. You can't try to get them to change their mind. That you're just going to jump right to that? I mean, in the long term, that's how games get preserved. There's a ton of old games that never got a modern port that are played now because of emulation. I don't necessarily disagree that emulation is part of the solution. I don't think it is the solution, though. Because if you just run to the alternative, which is, well, jailbreak, rip, and emulate, I just feel like we're skipping steps. It's like, I think that is part of this. I think that is part of the solution. I would love to see classic Coleco, Atari, Nintendo, games lost to time. I'd love to see those games emulated and made available to the public. So they're preserved. So the history of gaming is preserved. But I don't think you're going to do that if you turn this into a war. If you turn it into a war where you're like, well, we're going to jailbreak and we're going to pirate and we're going to emulate. We're the ones that are going to preserve our gaming history. We're not going to get what we want. You're just going to end up fighting a losing battle because they're always going to be trying to stop what you're doing. They're always going to be trying to do either firmware updates or, routes that you can't get around. I feel like we're skipping steps. I don't know. I feel like we're skipping steps. It's like, I don't think emulation is the only solution. I don't think so. This guy says they will somehow crap her design. Okay. I don't think stealing is the answer, but hoping digital ownership being changed isn't going to happen unless they made it to do so. My intelligence is insulted by people who want to wax eloquent about this and act like they're pro-preservation of games and they're pro-games when you're literally advocating for things that would hurt the studios that right now can't even do physical releases. You know what I'm saying? How does hurting a smaller, talented team that developed Astrobot help your cause in any way? It's so dumb. Right. The whole thing is stupid. It's like literally like, well, if we can't build this road in this forest, we're going to burn the forest down. It's like, okay. I think there are other answers here, and I don't think that is the answer. I don't think preservation. Number one, here is the fundamental logical flaw in the entire argument. We always arrive here. Emulation. Isn't that interesting? Isn't it interesting that people are using physical to argue about preservation, but we always end up here. All roads lead here. That true preservation of games is digital. Don't you think that's interesting? Are you? It's interesting. Let's really think about this. How are you preserving Coleco games and Atari games right now? You're not doing it physically, are you? You're not. How are people preserving Nintendo games, Super Nintendo games that are not available? They're not available physically. Are you preserving those games physically or digitally? It's almost as if using the lack of physical releases as an argument to support emulation, jailbreaking, piracy, it's almost as if it's a ruse. It's a ruse. It's like, wait a minute. Wait. None of the former generations are being preserved right now physically. They're being preserved digitally, almost as if that's the better way to preserve games. Just like I've made the example of like old television shows and old movies. How are they preserved right now? What's the best preservation? It's digital. So it's a ruse. It's all a ruse. It's just an excuse to be like pro-steal, pro-piracy, anti-Sony. It's like we've never preserved any of these generations physically. We're all doing it digitally. Anybody that's doing it right now, if you're emulating Atari, original Nintendo, if you're emulating Coleco, you're doing it digitally. You're preserving it all digitally, which is like, well, yeah, that's the best way. Which is why we should be fighting for a digital right to refund and true digital ownership. Like, if you don't fight for that, you're just like, well, because of physical discs going away, we should just jailbreak PlayStations and steal. Like, what? What? Huh? Yo, what's good, Ray? Bro, I feel like the people that want to pirate games feel like that their voice won't be heard and make a change. It's how we got here in the first place, with the big companies not focusing on the consumer. We have been getting screwed a lot with remakes over and over again. Can we really call this generation of games next gen compared to what we had with last gen? Oh yeah, I think so. I think the exaggeration about remakes and that this hasn't been a next gen, I don't agree with that at all. I don't agree with that one bit. Like when I played Ratchet and Clank, when I played Returnal, when I played Spider-Man 2, when I played Horizon Forbidden West, when I played Ragnarok, when I played Yote, when I played Death Stranding 2, when I played Stellar Blade, you know what I didn't feel like I was playing? I didn't feel like I was playing remakes, and I didn't feel like I was playing games from last gen. I don't know what people's expectations were, but I feel like I have played an ocean of amazing games that are at the quality I expected from this gen. Like, I don't know what you've been playing, but I also this year played Pragmata and RE9 and 007 First Light and Saros. And I'm going to play Onimusha and Wolverine. And you know what all those games felt like? You know what those games look like? They don't look like games I was going to play on my PS4. I don't know what games you've been playing, but I don't know. And again, I don't know what people were expecting. Did they expect every game to be 4K 60 and their eyeballs bleeding from the lighting and the reflections? Like, I don't know what you were expecting, but homie, I can't keep up with the number of games that are out right now. And yes, there have been a lot of remakes, but consumer demand is proving that the remakes were worthy of being made. Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced exceeded Ubisoft's expectations, and it looks incredible. Did you guys see my tweet last night? Look at it. Look at these pictures. You're going to complain? You're going to complain about this? What are we... This is it's so good. It looks incredible. I can't keep up. There's so many games. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed The Last of Us Part 1 remake. I thought it was an amazing remake. It felt like a current gen game, a classic. One of the most celebrated video games ever. The Last of Us, in the realm of like narrative-driven games, character-driven games, one of the most celebrated games. It felt like I was playing a game from this gen. Again, I think people are fixating on like, oh, it's just been nothing but remakes and none of these games have been next gen. I'm like, brother, what games have you been playing? I'm swimming in games. I can't keep up. Doom the Dark Ages was incredible. I just rolled credits on their DLC. It was fantastic. That doesn't look like something I'm going to play on a PS4. Now, sure, you could probably play it at like 30 FPS and all the lighting and res would be toned down. Does Onimusha look like something you would play on a PS4? Control Resonant? Saros? I saw people saying like Wolverine looks like a PS4 game. I'm like, what PS4 games did you play that looked like that and move that fast? You'd have to dumb so much of it down and then run it at 30. I played Spider-Man 1 on a PS4, and if you look at Spider-Man 1 Remastered, it's pretty different. The entire city comes to life with reflections and lighting. It's an amazing visual lift on the game. Like I said, I hear that a lot, Ray. I hear a lot of people say what you said, and I'm like, I don't know what games you've been playing. I really don't. Because I feel like I can barely stay ahead of the cadence of really, really good games that have been coming out this entire gen. Now, some of them have been exclusives. Some of them have been like second-party exclusives and third-party exclusives. RE9. I think I mentioned RE9 earlier. I said I played RE9 this year. I played Pragmata. I think I listed it in like a list of games that I played. And those were phenomenal games. None of those games look like something I could play on my PS4. What? I mean this. I don't know what, I need to know what your experience has been, what games you've played the last 6 years that leads you to think this gen has sucked and we just got nothing but remakes. And Ray, I'm not even targeting you. Tons of people have left this comment and said this, and I'm like, what have you been doing the last 6 years? I can't keep up with my backlog. Now, granted, I'm not a gameplay streamer, so that hurts my efficiency in games. And I'm a married man with 2 kids, so it's like I've got to make time. I've rolled credits on 21 games this year. I feel like I've done a much better job this year allotting times to finish games. And I'm not sure. It's like, have you been living in Call of Duty? Have you been living in a live service game and like you dip your toe in a game every now and again? I just don't know. S3 Plan says, which games this gen could not have mechanically been done last gen? Which gameplay mechanics were not possible last gen? Not talking graphics and visual presentation. Next gen play of the games. I'm not answering your question because it's a loaded question made in bad faith. It's a loaded question made in bad faith. Because we were not promised that this gen would be a bunch of new mechanics that were never done before. We were promised 60 FPS. We were promised instantaneous loading. We were promised higher resolution. We were promised better graphics, like better graphical fidelity. And when I look at Horizon Forbidden West and I go back and look at the PS4 version of Horizon Zero Dawn, they delivered on the promise. But being like, yes, but what mechanics did they add? That's not bad faith. Yes, it is. It's a loaded question. You are asking the question and you know the answer. That makes it bad faith. You know that there isn't some laundry list of mechanics that we can trot out that are quote unquote next gen. Why don't you tell me what you think next gen mechanics are? You're the one asking the question. Set the parameters. What do you consider a next gen mechanic? What does that even mean? Like when I played Burning Shores and I got to the final boss and he filled the screen and there's water crashing and there's explosions and it looks amazing. It looks cinematic. I wasn't like, well, I need to break this down to see, are there any next gen mechanics here? Like, what are you even talking about? Like, what is that? Define it. Do you know what always happens in these questions and these comments and these discussions? You're presuming an ideal that you never define. That's why it always feels bad faith. It's like you're just presuming this ideal that's never defined, so you can always be pessimistic and negative. Yeah, well, we didn't really get any next-gen mechanics. What is that? What is that? Define that for me. I was promised 60 FPS, instantaneous loading, better lighting, better graphics, and I got all those things. Like what? People never define the ideal. Well, this is what we should have got. Define it. What did I not get in Returnal and Ratchet and Spider-Man 2 and Horizon Forbidden West and Ragnarok? What didn't I get in Yote? What did I not get in Resident Evil 9 and Pragmata and 007 First Light? What didn't I get? What's lacking? What's the problem? What's the criticism? Do you see? That's why it always feels bad faith. It's this loaded question that you know there's no answer to. It just perpetuates the pessimism. It's like, well, yeah, this gen has just sucked. And I'm like, what? Based on what, though? What games have you played? AI glow up faces? Huh? I was promised wrinkle-free skin after 2 months. How do we know and define what next-gen mechanics are? That's why I said that the question feels bad faith. It's a loaded question. You know there's no answer to the question because it's not even definable. Because I could be like, well, the instantaneous loading in Ratchet and Clank. And you know what you'll do? Well, there was some obscure developer who claimed they could have built Ratchet and Clank on a PS4. False and untrue. Nobody who actually worked on that game and worked at Insomniac would agree with that. Completely, it's a lie. It's made up. What they did with Ratchet and the data controller and the SSD, you started taking that to environments on PC that didn't have an SSD, and look at what happened. Go look at the tests that people ran. Embarrassing that dev even said that. Oh yeah, you could have got that to run on a PS4. Yeah, if you completely changed the entirety of the game and built a PS4 game, you're not even saying anything. You could say that about any game that comes out. They could have built this to run on the PS4. Oh, really, Sherlock? Thank you for showing up and gracing us with such a wonderful insight. You could say that about any game that comes out. You could do it. You could take any game, like, well, they could completely gut it and turn all this stuff off, and you could get it to run on a PS4. Thank you. What would we do without such insightful observations? Again, define it. Define what's lacking. Define the ideal. What did you not get this gen that you were supposed to get? If you can't define that, then I find the position to be incredibly lacking and uncompelling. It feels forced. It just feels like this weird, I don't know what it is. It feels like a pessimistic rut that people get in. They can't really define why they're unhappy. They can't really define why they don't like any of the games that come out. So they just speak in platitudes. And whenever I push against the position, I don't get any specifics. I get nothing. I'm just like, what about all these games? We're 6 years in. What have you been playing? Why do you feel this way? Zubair says Cyberpunk with full path tracing runs on the PS5 Pro if you turn off the path tracing. That's right. So many games are limited to their design and their scope. The new frontier is VR because it's a new input method, the way to experience interactive experience. I don't agree with that at all. VR is too subjective. A lot of people don't like it. They don't like wearing something on their face. It makes them dizzy. I'll tell you what I didn't get this gen, says Bumblepants. Very much from Xbox first party, apart from things they bought that were already being made. Yeah, that's a whole other discussion. Lono, I think it was Sav who did a video on GTA patents, one being traffic. He basically said the new system is a lot less demanding on the system. I think it's going to be very interesting when that game comes out, if they actually pull off any kind of a performance mode, and we find out that they did a bunch of experimentation in GTA 5 and Red Dead 1 and 2. The thing that I've been saying and screaming for years, that like we're making so many presumptions about the lack of innovation at Rockstar. I think these people are still playing 10-year-old games and complain because those games only got an update to graphics on the newer consoles. They had unreasonable expectations. Well, it was like the guy yesterday who says we've been playing nothing but old games, and he listed like Red Dead and some other games, and I'm like, why are you only playing those old games? Why didn't you play any of the new games that came out? Kenny Power says, I think they suffer from choice paralysis, where there's so many choices, they feel overwhelmed, so they just throw their hands in the air instead of playing something. I don't know if that's what it is. I wouldn't be surprised if some people... Welcome back, Dark Taco. Let me add it to the total. You guys have an hour and 20 minutes. If you're going to do your 5-bomb member train again, where everybody takes a turn helping, hey, we're going to need a lot here. Let's just divide it by the 300. You're going to need what? We're right back where we were last week. Last week we needed 60 people to do 5 bombs, and 60 people did it. So... if you're going to do it, you got an hour and 18. Sorry, I got a phone call right as you answer my question. What is the next-gen mechanic? That is truthfully hard for me to answer. I think of how combat from PS1 to 2 to 3 We got so many more unique features and abilities that couldn't be done in older hardware. I'm unfortunately not a creative, and I will struggle to think outside the box to properly answer the question. I think the most creativity I've experienced in gaming has come from smaller studios making games that push the boundaries of graphics. Okay. Combat system in Ragnarok, and especially what they did evolving it in Valhalla, far surpasses anything they did in 2018. I would say the combat, the motion, the movement, the iframes in Returnal, and then even further upgraded in Saros, is nothing you ever saw on the old gen. Nothing comes close to that. It doesn't. The speed of traversal and the way that fast travel works in Spider-Man 2, there's nothing like that. Virtually nothing like that in a game of that scope and visual fidelity, right? TJ Boom does a single. Let's add it to the total. And I'm doing these off the top of my head. You know, size and scope, and again, the size and scope and fidelity, the ability to fly in Forbidden West and go up into like real clouds, and that sense of an actual giant world, you couldn't really do that on the previous gen. The size and scope of what they did in Burning Shores with the water and with the final boss fight. None of that. You ain't doing any of that previous gen, bro. You're not. And a fly bomb comes in from Too Thirsty. Here we go. Let's see how long you guys can take it. We need 59 more. Too Thirsty cracks a seal on the 60 that we need. I absolutely love Returnal. Great story, great mechanics. However, I do believe a game like that could have been made on PS4. Your belief is unfounded and not rooted in fact. So shed the belief. Why do you believe that? What? Why do you believe that? What game running at that speed, at 60 FPS, instantaneous loading of areas, and the number of projectiles on the screen? Dude, come on. You're literally doing the thing I just said people do. Like, you have a belief, but it's not rooted in anything. No, nobody in game dev would agree with you that, like, oh no, yeah, you could have totally done Returnal on the PS4. Nobody's going to agree with you. They'd be like, what? No. 60 FPS, it's incredibly fast. There's really tight iframes. There's hundreds of projectiles on the screen sometimes. Like, you would never be able to do that on the PS4. As evidenced by the games back then that even pushed the envelope. They didn't come anywhere close to that. If you believe that you are not qualified, if you believe that you're not qualified to be in this conversation, again, that's what I'm saying. Like, it always feels so manufactured. It's like, well, yeah, Returnal. Let's just really analyze this. Let's really pause on this, and let's just sit here for just a second. I'm not trying to beat up on S3 Plan. Let's just pause for a second. So you really enjoyed Returnal, but you feel it could have been done on PS4. So you have this gnawing, weird belief that somehow affected your enjoyment of Returnal. We had several bullet hell games over the gens of hardware, not 60 FPS, which I think are fantastic. We couldn't do 60 back then. Name the games. 60 FPS isn't a mechanic, it's a performance. No, it's 100% a mechanic impacting performance issue because it affects iframes. It also affects their ability to do things like how many projectiles were on the screen. Name a single game from the PS4 gen that looked and ran like Returnal. Name it. A third person like fast shooter with with bullet hell projectiles everywhere with tight iframes and 60 frames per second and instantaneous loading. All the like. My enjoyment of Returnal is not affected, but my belief is it could be done on the PS4. Yeah, again, I feel like you concoct things out of bad faith because what you do is your position is not. It doesn't feel genuine. It doesn't. Yeah, I really liked Returnal, but I'm gonna hold on to a fanboy talking point. Just take a walk. I don't think you're genuine. I don't. Nobody plays a game like that and holds on to some weird fanboy talking point. And a 10 bomb from Too Thirsty. Your position doesn't feel genuine. Who does that? You don't seem real. You seem your position feels completely manufactured. Like, oh yeah, I really like the game, but fanboy talking point. Fabricated fanboy non-facts based talking point. That's why you don't feel good faith to me. You feel bad faith. That doesn't feel like a genuine person. I've never interacted with a gamer or person who thinks like that. That's fanboy talking points. So you don't think I'm genuine? I'm not trying to troll you. I don't believe you. I don't. Your position's not, it's not reasonable. It's not logical. It's not facts-based. It's forced. Your position is totally forced. It's like I push on the position and it's like, well, I really liked Returnal, but I think they could have done it on PS4. Benevolent Icon with 45 months on a VIP. Melrose Mike renews as well. Benevolent Icon says, example of a game that's headcanon sucks, but I've actually enjoyed pretty recently. Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. I don't know. I put 20 hours in so far. It's on PS Plus. Avatar Frontiers of Pandora is amazing if you've never played a Far Cry. Far Cry ruins that game because you start to run into a lot of the same mechanics and familiarity of Far Cry, and it hurts it. Avatar Frontiers of Pandora is an amazing game. It's hard to keep up with your talking while I type. My thoughts are faster than I can type on my phone. I've been through this rigmarole before. I've been through this before. When I look at FF7 Rebirth, outside of how beautiful the game looks, it could very well be done on the PS3. Just read your sentence slowly, and I want you to think about it. I just want you to think about it. Outside of how beautiful the game looks, it could have been done on a PS3. Bro. Bro. What are we talking about? That's why your position doesn't feel good faith. It's so concocted. It's so manufactured. Your position's fake. It's phony. It doesn't pass the smell test. This game, if take away one of the defining attributes that everybody really liked, take that away, it could have been done on a PS3. You could say that about any game, bro. You could say that about any game. Your position's phony. It's fake. You could say that about any game, bro. Pick a game. Pick a game. Well, yeah, if you removed the advanced graphics and the lighting and, and how pretty it looks, yeah, you could get that to run on a PS3. So, you're not making a salient point to the discussion. That's so empty. That's a platitude that means nothing. What about the combat from FF7 Remake could not have been done on a PS3? There it is. There it is. It's not a good faith position. Presumed undefined ideal to perpetuate pessimism and negativity. Your position's not compelling. It doesn't even seem real. Because you could do that with every single game. I could do that with Doom, The Dark Ages. I could say, what did they do with the guns and the bullets and the movement that couldn't be done last gen? You could do that with any game that perpetuates any mechanic from the past. Any mechanic. So, you could take Yote, right? And you could say it's got similar movement and climbing and horseback riding. None of those mechanics were evolved past what could have been done on the PS4. You can do this with every single game. That's why it's not a good faith position. It's an a priori commitment to negativity. So you find something, you can do this with every single game. You are not assessing the game's quality, its fun, its gameplay loops, the harmonious nature of the story, the pacing, the voice acting. You're not doing any of that. You're saying, but if I take away all the actual advancements, What did they actually do that you couldn't do in the old gen? And it's like, brother, you can do that with every single video game that comes out, so your position is not a position. You didn't arrive at it logically or reasonably. It's a prior commitment. You're like, nope, I've got an ideal. It's not even a defined ideal. I'm just looking for new mechanics. And if there are missing new mechanics, or they use mechanics that they used before, bad game, could have been done in the past. It's like, what? That's the same people that say, well, we can run the game at 1,000 FPS, but they strip it down to nothing graphically. Returnal is definitely one of my favorite games this gen, and yeah, PS4 could have not handled it. Okay, let's take a game that the PlayStation 4 could handle. Okay? Let's really push on this as a problem. Because I'm not even it's not even a valid criticism, by the way. It's not a valid criticism, and I'm going to prove it to you. When I played through God of War Ragnarok and Horizon Forbidden West, the quality of those games was completely unaffected by the fact that you could play them on the PS4. It had no bearing on how good they were. It had no bearing on the story. It had no bearing on the voice acting. Had no bearing on the combat. Now, what my PlayStation 5 did have a bearing on was better performance, better lighting, better graphics, better load times. All the things they promised me. So you see, my expectations were in line with reality, and then reality delivered on those expectations, and I felt customer satisfaction. Invoking the fact that, like, oh, but those games could run on the PS4, okay, and simply stating a fact is not an argument. You could be like, but Horizon Forbidden West ran on the PS4. Okay, thank you for stating an obvious fact. That's not an argument. Now make an argument. What's the problem? What's the presumed negative here? Why is this an indictment of Horizon Forbidden West quality? Make an argument. You're going to wait a really long time because there isn't one. A 10 bomb from Jaddix gets us to 245. We're 5 away from 250. Jaddix says, come on, boys. 60 people did 5 bombs last week, and now you need 57. I think a good example, says Ganks, would be Destiny. Remember when they did the next-gen update? They were able to move... add more ad density and weapons like the 1,000 voices on the console. It was able to be more in line with the PC as far as damage because of the FPS increase. I'm sure that other things, but those are just 2 examples off the top of my head. There's a reason that there are 2 different versions of the same game. Holy moly. And that is an absolute monster. Okay, hang on. Talus Gaming renewed, but then a 50 bomb comes in from Wired Rope. Gets us to 296. And then Faith and Fury does a prime sub on purple. Guys, Rope believes, apparently. He gifted to all of the live followers right now. All 51 of you. Rope, that is incredibly generous, man. Thank you so much. The reason people are capping on your point, says Street Shadow, is because you are actively dismissing core parts of the game, reducing it down to one element, and using that to argue it could have run on X system. And Cardoc Ren drops a 5 bomb and rolls us over to 300. And I owe Twitch, what is that? I think I owe you 3. I'm going to wait for the 5 bomb. I owe you guys 3. So you guys are a lot closer now. Wow. Okay. You're 200 away now. You're 200 away, which means you only need 40 people to do 5 bombs now. Just like that, guys. Just like last week. We don't need people to go crazy. You guys did it all with 5s and 10s last week. I do appreciate you giving me time and responding, even if we disagree. You're still a great host and one of the best. Much love. Here's the thing, S3. Here's the thing. I don't think you're trolling. I think there's a difference between a troll and someone who, for whatever reason, So when I say bad faith, it doesn't mean like you're malicious. Okay? What it can mean is that you've concocted an argument that its starting position is faulty. So it absolutely feels as if it's been manufactured. And again, like Street Shadow said, it's like you keep stripping things away from games so you don't have to give them credit, and you're like, well, this could have run on a PS3. But brother, you could make that claim about virtually any game. That's why it doesn't feel like a compelling or reasonable position. It's like you're committing to saying that. You're not concluding that. Does that make sense? That's the difference in my mind. Yo, next Connection 88 with the Prime sub. Thank you very, very much. And Muku 85 renews their Prime for 18 months. Says working and lurking. Well, you guys got a hype train on Twitch now. A $5 super chat from Street Chatter Lona. Let's change the subject. What's one game you wish you could remove from memory and replay fresh? For me, Returnal. Yeah. The story. The twists and the turns, and when she says don't fear the Reaper, just so good. So memorable. Yeah. Why are we adding a D to Wire's name? Because I think in some places it is Wired Rope with a D. Rules around here. If Lono reads your name wrong, that's now your name. That's correct. That's right. You tell him, Zamad. You tell him. You tell him, Zamad. You loving Splatoon Raiders so far? People are saying it's got like a Loot Borderlands vibe, and I'm like, I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry, what? My wife and I are going to be playing that very soon, I guess. Horizon Zero Dawn, I felt so many things. Yeah, but to land that plane with S3 plan, again, it never, whenever I hear things like that, I don't feel like you played through the game, assessed all of its parts, and you were like, yeah, there's things that were lacking, or I wish this could have been done better. It's like, this is something I've said before. Have you tried Jump Space? What the heck is Jump Space? I've said this before. I think there's a difference between you play a game and there's things that you end up criticizing. That's not the same as people who look for things to criticize. And I'll give you an example. I played Assassin's Creed Shadows. I discovered, determined from my own opinion that Yasuke shouldn't have been in the game. And I had gameplay reasons, I had game flow reasons, I had pacing reasons as to why. So I had an argument. I could formulate an argument, and I walked through why I thought Yasuke should not be in Assassin's Creed Shadows. All right. That is not the same as these grifting haters who got really nasty. Arguably, even some of them got a little racist about it. About like, why is there a black man in Japan? Right? We are not the same. They were looking for things to criticize and hate and grift on. I played the game and I determined he doesn't fit into the game from a mechanics place, from a pacing place, from a gameplay place. He doesn't fit. I actually would have loved for him to have his own game because I thought his combat was quite cool, and I think he could have made an amazing action-adventure game. Jump Space, co-op PvE, online co-op. This is not on console yet, is it? I don't think this is on console yet. This is similar to the one that has PvP, I think. If it's on console, I need to wishlist it. I'm 39. I played a lot of games since the Genesis across tons of genres. I'm having memories of Metal Gear Solid 1 to 2, Valkyrie Profile 1 to 2, old school jumps of gameplay mechanics. I miss that. Okay. You would be There's a minute left on the hype train on Twitch. If you guys are going for this goal, you got an hour. And the hype train's about to end. If you gift, you get to unlock an emote, I think, for a day. Shadow sucked, subjectively, of course. I liked it until I didn't. I liked it until I didn't. I was having a great time with it. If it would have just been Now Way, I probably would have had a much better time. Yasuke was just like he just was a stick in the spoke of the tire. It didn't work. He's chasing the dragon. So S3 plan, you are emblematic of my metamorphosis principle theory that people started to associate really big jumps, right? There were really, really big jumps in games. We'll just say games. We don't need to talk about the graphics, but the games themselves, they were huge, huge jumps. Some of us went from playing Space Invaders to Super Mario to GoldenEye to Gears of War to God of War. Okay? Now, what that does is it can passively do this. It creates in you an expectation that a new game, the value of a new game, is synonymous with a big leap. The tech's got a leap. And from PS4 to PS5, we didn't leap, we jumped. There's a jump. No denying there's a jump. The games look better, they run better. There's things they're doing with like instantaneous loading. There's things they're doing with like iframes and speed of traversal and mechanics themselves that just wouldn't have been possible. It wouldn't have been this tight, feeling great, crisp experience on the 4. It would have been rough. There'd have been frame drops and what have you. We jumped. We didn't leap. Now, here's the problem. That's not an indictment of the games. It isn't. It's symptomatic of our time. Do you see? It's like it's not an indictment of the games. It's not like I said, it's not like Horizon Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok are indicted by the fact that they're jumps from their predecessors. They're not leaps. I think it's fair to say that. They're a jump, but they're not a leap. But that doesn't indict the game. It doesn't make the game bad. It doesn't mean that the game is disappointing or terrible. Like, here's the other aspect of this that I don't agree with. This obsession with advancements and innovations or whatever. It's like there can be other levels of creativity within a game with respect to storytelling. There were sections of Horizon Forbidden West. I've never put my eyes on anything like that on the old gen. It was like the Las Vegas Strip area with all the neon lights and stuff. It looked incredible. It was mind-blowing how pretty it was. Burning shores and the water and the flying and that final boss fight. I was genuinely like, whoa. But if I'm not saying those things, like I wasn't saying that the entire time I was playing Ragnarok. Ragnarok is very much in congruence with the graphical quality of 2018. It's not this huge, massive jump. It is a jump, but it's also like, but it's also just like enjoyable, right? It's not like, oh my gosh, every section of that game you're like coming out of your skin with like the graphics or whatever. So again, it's like, you're trying to indict the game for a lack of something that you were, number one, I don't think we were ever promised. And number two, that's why I kept saying it's an unspoken ideal. It's like, it's this imagined thing that they didn't do. And then you're like, yeah, I'm just disappointed. This gen sucks. These games sucks. And these games have been bad. And I'm like, because what? Because the tech didn't jump 10 times over 8 buildings to give you an experience you've never had before? Does that make sense? That's why I say it feels bad faith, because it feels like a commitment, like you're looking for things. That's why I said it felt like a loaded question. The thing that set this entire thing off with S3 Plan, I was like, that feels like a loaded question. You were like, what are the next gen mechanics that they added? And I'm like, for a fact, there's almost no answer to that you can't hand wave as a performance improvement. Instantaneous loading, that's a performance improvement. Better lighting and ray tracing. Better graphics, better frames per second. Yeah, that's performance. I'm talking about next-gen mechanics, and I'm going to be like, that's not something we were promised, and it's hard to list them off the top of my head. I think I did a decent job answering, but again, my expectations were good games that ran and looked better, and I feel like I got that. I feel like PlayStation first-party studios delivered excellent games that looked and ran better than the previous gen. Rambling Gaming with $5 says, shout out to the clowns that dismiss the physical gamers. How are all those digital games you can't access every time PSN goes down? They play just fine because as long as your PlayStation is set to the home PlayStation, it can play games offline. Thank you for paying $5 so that everybody know that you don't know about a basic feature of the console's functionality. Digital games work just fine when PSN's down, so if you want any more tips on how to use your PlayStation, just give me another $5 and I'll tell you something else you might not know. Guys, if you haven't hit the like button yet, try to get us to 300 likes. In about a little under an hour now, we're going to go to the round table with Ginger Prime and the boys over there. So make sure you've hit the like button, get us to 300 likes. If you're going to work on that goal, renew your membership, do your primes, and there's also the opportunity to do gifteds, or you can sign up right now. Somebody said I'm playing a game right now. I just downloaded the Tocone beta. Yep. I said it earlier, but I think people need to understand, this is Greg, much like the hardware generations right now, we're just at a point where we can't get big jumps anymore, big leaps in what we do. We really are at a point of refinement and expansion of current tech and capabilities, not innovations in mechanics. Like, how many variations of shooter can we really do that hasn't been done? We're also limited to the controller, the keyboard, the mouse. I think the focus for developers is on story and scale now. I agree with you. I agree with you, Greg. And how do you download them, clown? Wait, that wasn't the question. That wasn't what you said, though. So now you're changing the parameters of your super chat. Super chat me again and try again. That's not what you said. You said, how are all those digital games? What do you mean? They're already installed. I got tons of digital games ready to go. Sure, when the network goes down, it's a bummer if I can't download a new game. Yeah, but the games that I already have, they're just fine. Isn't that what the conversation's about? Oh. Also, I'm assuming that you never buy the indie titles and the AA titles that are digital only then, right? You don't buy or support them? You think they're scummy, anti-consumer, greedy corporations that you won't support? I'm just going to assume that the vast majority of digital only releases, you don't buy them, right? Because, you know, you wouldn't be able to download them if PSN's down, and you don't own them. You can't access them? No, not being able to access the store is not the same as what your original claim was. I mean, I know it's embarrassing to tip somebody $5 and betray the fact that you don't know how the console works. But you buy them physical on the Switch? No, I mean, the vast majority of indie and AA games are digital only. There is no physical purchase option for an ocean of games that launch every month. I'm assuming you boycott those games and you've called those studios greedy and anti-consumer. I'm just assuming that you're consistent. You're so passionate and so willing to give me $5. My presumption is that you're consistent in the position and that you don't buy any digital games. There are so many indie and AA games every year. You must. I'm assuming that you think that they're greedy and anti-consumer and they're scummy and they should be yelled at on Twitter and you shouldn't buy their games. They are irrelevant then. Oh no, they're very relevant to the conversation because if you care about game preservation, what are you going to do with all those games? We're having an indie and AA studio renaissance right now. There's so many games coming from smaller studios, and there are a lot of them, majority of them are digital only. How do you preserve those games? What do you do? I mean, if you care about game preservation, I mean, you care about accessing the games if PSN is down, you know, what do you got? You know, what do you do when the internet's down and the bulk of how you interact with live sports or movies or TV shows? What do you do? Do you go and super chat people then too? GOG and burn them on the disc. So there's every indie and AA title you can go and do that with. Okay, well, hopefully you're doing that. Hopefully you're doing that. Fighting the good fight for preservation. Homie said burn him to a disc. Yeah, he's got a CD burner right now, boys. He's burning them. He's got, you remember those spindles you could get from Best Buy? Oh, Lord. He keeps a Sharpie and a binder on standby. Cope laugh. Cope laugh. You just said you get the games from GOG and burn them to a disc. Homie, who's doing that? Wouldn't you just back it up on an external SSD? What do you mean, burn them to a disc? What are you talking about? What do you mean? Burn them to discs, man. It's not Cope laugh. We're genuinely laughing at you. You gave me $5 and made a fool of yourself. You gave me $5 so that you could say that you don't understand how the consoles work. We've had our entertainment fill of you. Thanks for the $5. Take a hike. Oh my golly. Can we assume he doesn't game on Steam? What was Lono's early thoughts on Halo? Really liked it. Feels like a faithful remake. I would hold off until some of the performance issues are addressed. There was a persistent hitch that was kind of annoying. I would have been able to look past it, but then I got indoors in a pretty intense fight, and the frame rate was bad. I mean, it dropped. It looked like stop motion. It wasn't like a little bit of a drop. It was like, wow. I mean, barrels were flying, enemies were flying, and it was like, it looked like stop motion. It was bad. I really hope. I was on the Pro, yes. And I'm hoping they can push out maybe a day one patch will address it. It'll be easy for folks to test because you can just rerun the missions and go to the spots where it's bad. So hopefully there's maybe a day one patch, or maybe they can push out like an early quality of life patch because it was pretty bad. GOG doesn't even have all the new releases. Again, it's a moment in time where they can feel self-important and call people names. Like he comes in and calls me a clown. It's like, ooh, internet tough guy calling me a clown who doesn't even know how the PlayStation works. And then he has to reframe the argument to, well, you can't go download them right now. It's like, okay, yeah, when PSN's down, that's a problem. That doesn't mean that you can't get the games. It doesn't mean you can't play your games. It means you can't go get a new game right now. Just like if the internet's down, like you can't go watch a TV show. It doesn't mean that like streaming platforms are the devil. That's what I mean. Do you not do anything with digital? And then, I mean, put them to the question. Are they actively criticizing companies that do digital only releases? What did he say? He didn't say that he had a problem with that. What did he say? This is where he's inconsistent and he doesn't even know it yet. He's not allowed to talk here because I don't want to interact with people that are this lacking of intelligence. What did he say? For digital-only games, AA games and indie games, what did he say? He said, oh, I'll get it from GOG and burn it to a disc, which is hilarious. I mean, he's probably dating himself by saying that. Oh, okay, so wait, hang on one second. So he's okay with needing the internet and online services to be functioning properly to download digital-only games off GOG. Inconsistent position, hypocrite. Thanks for letting us know you're not consistent in your position. Do you see? Zero thought, zero consistency. It's not logical. It's not reasonable. Like, oh, PSN's down. You can't get those digital-only games. But you just told us you'll go to GOG and get digital-only games because an ocean of indie and AA titles launched digital-only. And you'll go to GOG, which means the internet has to be working, AWS can't be crashing, GOG has to be working in order for you to do that, which means if any of that infrastructure is down, you can't get those games from GOG. Welcome to not having a consistent position. His position's not consistent. A willingness to go to GOG and download digital-only games means that you're no different than the people that are okay with digital games on their console. You're no different, and yet you think you're better, and it just proves that you are obviously, that's just ignorance. That's just empty-headed hypocrisy. Hasn't even thought through the position to think that, like, I'm going to go call people clowns and insult people who literally do the same thing that he does. They willingly buy digital games and download them. Do you see what I'm saying? This is the time that we live in. Just empty-headed outrage. They don't even think through. And the minute you expose the inconsistency, what did he do? He called me a name. It's like, sorry. Your position's not respectable because it's made up. It's fake. It's phony. You haven't even thought through this. Because you're literally, you're a walking repudiation of your own position because you go and interact with a digital store and download digital games. Oh, but it's DRM free and I can save it for forever. That's not what you brought up. What you brought up was that PSN was down so that we couldn't go download new games. We can play our digital-only games just fine. As long as the console is set to the home console, we can play offline just fine. Oh, it was about being able to download new games. Oh, okay, so if that's what the conversation's about, well, then you're willing to do that with GOG. What's the difference? Oh, there's no DRM and I own it. Oh, so it doesn't have anything to do with PSN being down. It doesn't have anything to do with downloading new games. Your issue is ownership, DRM. Great. We're all in agreement then that we should have non-revocable games and a right to refund. Congratulations. You just played yourself. You just spent $5 and arguing yourself into a circle to arrive at the same position that I have right now, that we should be able to own the games, they shouldn't be revocable, and we should have right to refund. Do you see? Just each piece of the argument falls to the wayside because it's ignorant, it's phony, it's fake, and you arrive at the same. We all arrive at the same issue. The issue is ownership and right to refund every time. Or you can throw in preservation. Yeah, loot. You can throw in preservation. Preservation, right to refund, non-revocable games. We all, who doesn't agree on that? Is anybody out here singing the praises of revocable games? No. Is PlayStation going to offer those things? Only if we force them to. We have to force them to do it. We're going to have to go through regulators. Good luck with PSN when you got no electricity. Thank you for the 2-spot, Jerry. Someone please make an intelligent argument of why I should care for discs. They can't do it. Hidden Siriu. Because it's not about preservation. Because if they cared about preservation, they'd already be fighting that fight for all the games that they can't own right now in a physical way. Every single time a AA studio drops a game or an indie studio drops a game and it's digital only and they buy it, they are a hypocrite because they're saying, I care about preservation and ownership. No, you don't. You've been willingly buying games that you can't preserve. You've been willingly buying games that you can't do anything with if they decide to take it away from you. Your position's not consistent. It isn't. You care about a small smattering of games that come out physical where the whole game is on the disc. We walked through the math of this earlier. The vast majority of game releases are digital only. So you got to take all the physical games that release. Only about 75% of them, the entire game is on the disc. So 25% of the physical games that you buy, the game's not even on the disc. The whole game's not there. 75% are. When you make a pie chart of that, you guys are ripping your shirts, screaming, crying, and brigading over the smallest slice of game releases so that you can preserve your games. Are you preserving all those digital games you purchased? How? How are you doing that on your console? What are you doing? You buy a digital game on your PlayStation that doesn't have a physical release. What are you doing? Oh, you're just willingly accepting a lack of true ownership as well as no way of preserving it in perpetuity? Then your position is so flimsy, why should we care what you say? To be fair, PSN goes down way more often. Well, PSN isn't down, AWS is down, which is affecting tons of infrastructure and websites. PSN does go down on its own sometimes. In this situation, it's not really their fault. It's AWS. It's Amazon Web Services is down. It's part of the experience for some people. It's not technical, it's emotional. I can respect that. I buy real books after having tried Kindle only for a few years. Yeah, I prefer real books as well, Zubair. I do. And if a book I was really looking forward to came out digital only, I might bite the bullet and read it digital, and I wouldn't like that I have to do that. I did that with the Redwall books with my kiddos because it was just super convenient to buy the Kindle versions of Redwall instead of buying like the really expensive big huge books, and then they would take up a bunch of room somewhere in our house. Part of me wishes I would have bought them because then we would have them and they could reread them on their own, and like that's a good habit for them. But they go to the library enough and they have their own book collections that they're amassing, and Madam's amassing their library out there. I didn't feel like it was necessary, but like by and large, I prefer a real book as well. The only times I've gone digital only is in specific instances like that where it's just more convenient. Like there's like 26 Redwall books. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh, time for a new one. Let's just get it on Kindle. I have no hope for true 100% digital rights ownership, but I'll be keeping my fingers crossed. I don't know if we're going to get the level of ownership that people want, but we can get it to where it's not revocable. I think that's step one. We have to think about this. You got to think about this as like you got to think like an army general. What fight can you win? What fights are unlikely to be won? Fight the fights that you can win. I think the first line of defense, the first line of attack we can win is that they shouldn't be revocable. That is, I would say it's unjust for consumers to be buying something that can arbitrarily be taken away for any reason. That's not just. I would argue that is like there's contract law for agents in California where you cannot create a contract that's predatory by nature, where like the agent gets 90% of everything they get you signed up for. So they get you to do a commercial for Nestle, and you go do the commercial, and they get 90% of what Nestle paid you. That's not allowed in California. There's literal contract law against that because agents were being absolutely abusive and predatory on people who were trying to get work, in the industry of like commercials, TVs, and movies. So that's a contract law that passed. I believe we should be passing regulatory laws that state this is an unjust way to treat the consumer. Buying a game that's revocable in perpetuity for any reason is not just. It's unjust. I would argue it's wrong. It's like this doesn't make any sense. What am I buying if the entire time you can just take it away? That's ridiculous. And here's the other thing. I don't believe the consumer is properly informed. You want to argue TOS, some big book of legalese that everybody's supposed to read and understand before they buy something. They should be told every single time, this game is revocable at any point in the future if we deem fit. You know what they would do if they had to say that? They'd change their policy because it would tick people off and it would hurt their sales. Yeah, you got to inform the customer every time it purchases. It has to be big, bold, and clear. Just like we do with microtransactions, where they tell you the percentage chance of getting the premium item so that you're properly informed of the chances that you're gambling on. You should be properly informed. Every digital purchase, boom, big window pops up. Sign that you acknowledge and understand that this game's revocable forever if we decide to revoke it. It'd kill their sales. People be like, what? What? Huh? The customer's not properly informed. Talk to the average consumer. They have no idea that this is a reality. That's fight number one. These games should not be revocable. It's absurd. It's arguably stupid. I go and buy Ghost of Yote. You shouldn't be able to revoke that forever just because. That's dumb. It doesn't make sense. I don't need to be able to put it on a hard drive and copy it 1,000 times and risk, gaming the system. I don't need that. I don't need that level of freedom. But you shouldn't be able to take it away. You shouldn't be able to do that. That's wrong. Especially when the consumer is not properly informed. Making them read an 18-page legalese document before they make their account, and then that just counts as they're informed into the future all times, I think is stupid. It's like nobody's reading that. Well, you should. Well, even if you did, the average person's not going to be able to understand half of what's in there. That's what I said earlier. You want them to fight for your fight and not fight for their fight. Regardless of winning or losing, you fight because it's the right thing to do. I don't agree at all. Fighting for physical is not an issue of right or wrong. You're invoking morality. I completely reject your morality because it's made up. Like, it's the right thing to do to fight their fight. No, it's not. There's no imperative here. You have no say on some external imperative on my life, like I ought to be fighting that fight. It's the right thing to do. There's no right or wrong here. It's consumers that are upset about a change according to their own preferences. My preferences don't align with theirs. I'm not fighting that fight. I'm also not fighting a fight that's a waste of energy. Screaming on Twitter, making a bunch of videos, drawing lines in the sand that I'm quickly going to get rid of because I'm never going to buy anything from PlayStation again. I was just kidding, y'all. Let me get rid of this line in the sand that I drew. Like, it's the right thing for them is what I'm saying. I mean, if they feel it's the right thing to do, then sure, they should be fighting that fight. Sure, go right ahead. But first line of attack here is these should not be revocable. We should be going to the regulatory bodies. The guy I was going to talk to, he was out of town because it's the summer. I'm going to talk to this guy. He's plugged in. I'm like, I need you to give me a list of the people that I should be talking to. Are there people in chambers of commerce, local government, or higher that you can get me a phone number or an email to? I want to start a dialogue. They should know. These governing bodies should know. Consumers are not properly informed, and they can revoke these games at any time. The second line of attack is right to refund. We need the right to refund because these products can launch in such damaged, inoperable states. We should be able to refund them within a reasonable amount of time and get our money back. We are not properly protected. If we can get those two things, that goes a really, really long way of protecting us. Physical discs, like, that doesn't do anything to protect you right now. 25% of physical releases aren't even on the disc, and the vast majority of games are launching digital only because it's too expensive for the smaller studios to make the discs. You are fighting not only a losing battle, in the grand scheme of history, zoomed all the way out, this is a foolish exercise. You are absolutely achieving nothing other than throwing tantrums on Twitter. I get being mad. I get being disappointed. Your emotional response is completely valid. It's the action that comes after that needs refinement at this point. It needs refinement. I agree with the ownership of games and everything you're saying, but I think our country has a lot bigger issues than ownership of games. We have... What are you talking about? We have division of labor within the governance that these things are handled by people. I'm not asking the Department of Justice to step in, Dan, or Homeland Security. They have their jobs. I'm not calling 911 and asking local police to step in. We have division of governance for a reason. We would reach out to the people that handle this sort of thing. and say, hey, we're the taxpayers and the voters. We're not protected. This needs to change. It happened with microtransactions. It happened in microtransactions in certain countries. They have to tell you the percentage chance of what you're going to get because you need to be properly informed what you're actually, quote unquote, gambling on. That literally happened because of consumer outcry. You guys are acting like we can't get change here. That's the absurdity of it too. It's like you guys are. This is what's weird. It's like Schrodinger's activism. It's like you both believe you can get a change by screaming on Twitter, but you're also conceding consistently that we're not going to get change. It's weird. It's like in one breath, people are like, keep the fight. We can make a change. While also they'll fire back like, yeah, we'll never get that. Like, wait, what? Huh? What are you talking about? Consumers have gotten these things to change. It's literally happened. There are literal better rules and regulations right now about loot boxes because people got fed up and they went to the governing bodies. It's like, why are we so like limp-wristed on this? Like, well, yeah, we can't. We might as well just fight for the last bastion of discs. What the heck? We 100% could fight and get better protections. We've done it. We've done it. People are looking to be consoled. They don't actually expect anything to change. It's performative. In the U.S. So right now, it's my understanding that when you go to buy loot boxes, do they not tell you the percentage chances, or is it only in Europe? I thought that change happened at a global level. Maybe not in China, but I felt like that happened everywhere. Like when you go and buy card packs and things from games right now, doesn't it tell you the percentage chances? Even if you're in America, I feel like it says that. That's my understanding. It's only in Europe? I thought I saw pictures of card packs here doing that, telling people the percentage chances of getting like the best players. Some of the companies may make the changes globally. It's not required in the U.S., but they do it, don't they? If it's not required in the U.S., then then the U.S. is behind. They did it voluntarily. Yeah, the U.S. is behind then. We're super behind on that. I thought that got changed like in games just generally. 38 months from destruction. Welcome back, Lazaro. Always happy to be part of the community. Thank you. Okay, guys, if you're going to buckle down, you got 25 minutes. I owe 3 members to Twitch, okay? You guys have made a very, very valiant effort. We need 40 people to drop 5 bombs. Like last week, everybody just do 1 and see how close we can get. We needed 60 people a little bit ago. You're going to have to hustle. You got 25 minutes. EU's large enough to make a difference. Cards do not have the stats, not Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh! I think AI could be used for good in this way. If a game has a license for, say, music, like 20 songs that expires in 5 years, they could use AI to make 20 songs to replace those when the license expires. A lot of the reason that ends up happening, Anthony, is the company's not around anymore. The team's not around anymore. There's no pipeline to update the game. That's one of the reasons those licensure problems happen. Do you know what I mean? It's like, who's going to update the game at that point? That's usually what you run into. It's like there's no pipeline, there's no team to update the game. So the game just gets delisted and removed because the license expires. And it's like, well, you can't sell that anymore. You can't let people have access to that anymore. That's the issue. Like, I think taking a game out of the store, while it is a huge bummer, I don't take as much of an issue with that, because if it's a licensing dispute and that company no longer has a right to sell the game, that's a legal thing that we don't really have a claim on. right? It's like, well, we can't sell anymore. Okay, taking it from someone's library, that's where I get really, my hackles get instantly raised. I'm like, wait a minute. You're actively taking from someone's library. You shouldn't be allowed to do that. They paid for that. If you want to give them a refund, I guess that'd be okay. At least the transaction's being reversed. The ability to reverse the transaction without the money returning to the user, again, that should be illegal. I can't believe this even needs to be stated. You're reversing the transaction without the customer's consent, and you're not giving them their money back. That is absurd that is even happening. It's absurd. Imagine them charging you money without your consent. Class action lawsuit before you can say dinner. They'd be sued like that if they were charging you without consent. I would argue, according to the intrinsic value of the item being removed, taking it from your library without your consent and you not being compensated for the original purchase, I would argue that's grounds for litigation. They should be sued for that. I think so. I think that should be a class action lawsuit. I think every single person who had those games removed from their libraries should sue, and they should be paid what the game cost. You reversed the transaction without the customer's consent, and you didn't give them their money back. I don't care what your stupid terms of service states. No, that's unjust. You shouldn't be allowed to do that. That would be like their terms of service saying, yeah, we can charge you anytime we want if we feel like it. If it's a Tuesday and we're a little short on money, we can just charge you and not really tell you why. If that was in their terms of service, do you think that would hold up? No, of course not. It's absurd. It should be just as absurd to be like, we can reverse the transaction and not give you money, and we can take the game from you. I'm sorry, what? Well, it's in our TOS. I don't care. You're reversing the transaction without the consent of the consumer, and they're not being refunded. That should be illegal. This isn't even an argument. This should be happening right now. Yeah, the problem is that suing is expensive, for sure. That's why you got to go to the regulators to fight these fights for you. That's why the guy in Brazil won, because he didn't have to pay money. Yo, thank you, Wool Saints, for coming over and raiding. You didn't have to pay anything. You're never going to get that. You're never going to get that class action going unless somebody's footing the bill, or again, if a regulator steps in. If the regulator steps in and sues the company and says, you can't do that. Like the idea that you can just reverse a transaction without customer consent, and then not give them their money back. We need like 5 more likes on the video, guys. Get us to 300 likes. I asked my wife if she slept okay. She said no. You? I said nope. Whenever she's gone, I sleep like garbage. I wake up. I have a hard time falling asleep, and I wake up a bunch. It's like a disturbance in the force. It's like everything's wrong. I can't do it. All right, you guys got 20 minutes. All right, it's probably not happening unless you guys. This is last call. Last call. You got 20 minutes. That's about how long it would probably take to scramble, unless people start doing 50 bombs, which. Somebody saved your bacon last week with a 50 bomb. We can't count on that. There are some EULAs that have probably tried that. Yeah. I mean, and this is the reason we got on this subject. The reason we got on this subject is it's so hard not to end up here, because it's the prevailing concern of our time that, like Xbox is testing ads in their streaming thing, right? Xbox just removed games from people's libraries. PlayStation just removed, music and TV shows from people's libraries. And PlayStation announces going digital only. We're hearing that Xbox is headed towards the same future, digital only. It's a prevailing thought of our time, is that everything is related to it, whether it's the ads, the removal of games, delisting games, or an all digital future. It's the prevailing concern. Take the weekend off still. Nothing wrong with that. No, I would do a stream with you guys if you guys hit the goal. We would probably just end up doing maybe like a community game night or something instead if we hit it. Xbox removed from people's libraries? Yeah, there were 3 games. They just did it this week. They delisted the games from the store, and they removed the 3 games from people's libraries. It was because of a licensing thing. It was just like what Sony did when Sony removed the movies and the TV shows and the music from people's libraries. Licenses expired or something. So they don't just delist it from the store like, oh, I can't buy that super old game anymore. They literally took it from people. Gone. It would be like, a good example of this could be something like 007 First Light. If the 007 property and music, was licensed or something, and in 2 or 3 years that license comes under dispute or expires or something, and I go to download the game and they're like, no, this game's no longer playable. That's what would happen. It would be me losing a game I paid for. Yeah, it's happening everywhere. It's not just Xbox. Yeah, I mention PlayStation every time because I know that's what people are going to do. They're going to be like, it's not just Xbox. I'm like, I'm not saying it's just Xbox. I make sure every time I mention this to mention PlayStation because everybody's so hungry to make it seem, I know you're not doing that, Talca, but like I specifically every time have mentioned it's just like PlayStation. It's just like PlayStation. Xbox removed those 3 games. PlayStation just did this with TV shows and movies and music. Just ripped them from people's libraries. They're gone. What if Sony loses the Marvel license? Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea what that looks like. I don't know. I don't know if suddenly you can't play Spider-Man and Wolverine 5 years from now if there's some kind of a licensure dispute with Disney. Which games got removed? It was 3 games. Xbox removed 3 games. It's a dispute with No Gravity Games, I guess. It's a game called Creepy Tail 2, and Strike Force Kitty. Now, obviously, I don't think anybody is like storming the castle over these 3 games, but it's a demonstration of what can happen. It's a demonstration of like, if you bought those games in the past, you now cannot play them. They are gone. They're not in the store for purchase. They are not in your library. They are gone. Okay, I'm going to take the timer down. We're going to be going over there in about 10-ish minutes or so. We're going over to the round table. Let me set up the redirect and make sure you guys continue to hit the like button. And let me set up redirect. I'll give you guys a link and all that here in a moment. Okay. Hang on. There we go. I'm just giving myself a good version of the hyperlink to give you guys here in a minute. I wonder if having games removed from the storefront and from your library would also take it from your purchase history of any type of receipt. I would imagine that would be... I feel like that would be against the law. Like, I don't know, like literally hiding a transaction, like removing a transaction of history or something like that, that doesn't feel like you'd be allowed to do that. That doesn't feel like that would be on the up and up. I don't know. That would be incredibly, problematic. I also love the people who are getting on my tweets about how my Reforge Media account got hacked and Twitter gives you no ability to get access to an account when you lose access to the email. and people are like, welcome to all digital. Haha, welcome to all digital. It's like, I really worry for the future of humanity. For people to be that dumb. It's deeply concerning. That people are that stupid. It's like, what? We're headed for destruction as a species. We are. It's like they're using a digital platform that they have no claim on, where the same thing could happen to their account, and they're like, welcome to digital. It's like, you're literally on this platform. What are you talking? Virtually everything we interact with now, entertainment wise, social media wise, it's all digital. Like, what? I really hope and pray no one depends on them. I hope none of them are parents, because it's like, if there are children that depend on you, I worry for their safety. You know what I mean? I really worry for their safety. To be that stupid. The Big Pack fan, thanks for 12 months. I'm keeping my membership. But there's a clip of you being shared saying, if you're not a member, you don't matter. I asked the other day if you mind explaining the context because it looked bad. I thought there might be more to it. People are still circulating that clip. That was from a green room segment where I was talking about the Discord. And I didn't say, if you're not a member, you don't matter. I didn't say that. I said the public doesn't matter, because in the context of me saying that, I didn't want the public in the Discord, because it's a notoriously troublesome thing to just have an open Discord policy. The people that are circulating that clip are liars. They lie about me all of the time. They take clips out of context because they don't like me. They're like the most petulant children ever. It's like they don't like me, so they're constantly trying to misrepresent what I say. And they do this knowingly, by the way. It's not by accident. They show the clips knowing that they're misrepresenting what I have said and what I believe, because they are liars. They are not men of integrity. They're not upstanding. The people that live their life like that, there's always a comeuppance. You know what I mean? I don't go to war with these people. I don't chase them down. You know what I mean? I don't have the energy for that. They'll get what everybody gets that lives their life like that. It's like clockwork. Watch these platforms. Watch people that run their channels like that. Homie, it'll come back around. It will. I just don't concern myself with it. I just asked, since you get clipped a lot. Thanks, Ant Got No Games, for renewing your membership. Yeah, it's a machine, and that's a really old clip. Like, we were literally in a green room segment, and like, they would literally get memberships so they could get into the green room and watch us talk about the business, so that they could take the clips out of context. We weren't talking about the channel. We were talking about the Discord. Narwaffle with the 5-bomb, thank you. What's your TLDR on the impressions of Halo? I like everything except for the performance issues. I basically have told people I'd hold off and see if the day one patch addresses them, because I thought they were pretty disruptive. Once I got into a pretty intense fight, Hilly, it looked like stop motion. It was bad. I've not had frame issues that bad in another game recently. Not in recent memory. There's something is wrong. Something is off. It looked like stop motion. It was a big fight, and it was like explosions from grenades and stuff, and like the enemies flying and the barrels flying. It looked like a stop motion movie. On what mission? We were in a room, and then we were going up, and like we're going through hallways and spiraling up. And when we were in the room, two of the really big guys came in, and I was throwing grenades, and there was barrels exploding, and it was, I don't know the name of the mission though. I only played for 2 hours, so it was within the first 2 hours of the game. How are they still releasing games with performance issues? It keeps happening. I mean, it could be an Unreal issue. I mean, because people are going to fault Unreal, but we've played a handful of Unreal games this gen that haven't had those problems. So, I don't know. Second mission after the first one? Yeah. There's also a perpetual hitching issue that happened onto the big purple from the UFO. Yes, that's what it was, Hilly. Yeah, we took that lift elevator up into the thing. When we were in there is when it was the worst. Before that, when we were like in like the open world spaces, like the open spaces, homie, it was like hitching probably every 45 seconds. It was noticeable after killing the big hunters. It was like when they came in the room. When they came in the room and everybody's throwing grenades and I'm throwing grenades, there's all this lighting. It was, yeah, the frame rate was bad. I mean, again, it looked like stop motion. I might be able to find the clip. I might be able to find the clip. Because it was in this, no, see, I think I'm too high in the room now. I think I was down below when it happened. I died a couple times. It was after I died. Like, I died because the guys came in the room and I got kind of like beat up. And then all of a sudden I reran the checkpoint, threw some grenades, and it was like, again, it was like stop motion. Is this it? Yeah, this is the room. I think I die here. Yeah. Okay. So I believe it's coming up. It might be because they come in the room. Yeah, right there was a pretty big frame hitch. I go back here, and I think it's like right here there's going to be an explosion. This group, I think. Yeah, you can see it. You can see the entire game's kind of hitching. It might have been earlier because it was a big group. It was a big group where I threw a grenade and it literally looked like stop motion. You thought motion blur looked better? I thought it looked worse. It might be here. No. It's on the other side of that wall. It's on the other side. Like, I got on the other side of the wall and I threw a grenade. It was a big group and it literally looked like stop motion. I think this guy gets me. Yeah, I think he ends up killing me. Yeah, this isn't it. Yeah, it might have been earlier in the fight. It was like this little group of barrels here and these guys. They all went flying and it looked really, really bad. That's not unplayable? I've not said it's unplayable. I've just said I would hold off and wait because you don't know when it's going to get bad or when it's going to get worse. Like, the further you get, I'm assuming the worse it's going to get. And it's also different when you're on the sticks. When you're on the sticks, like, you really, really feel... I think it's right here. No. They all went up in the air. It was like a big explosion with the barrels. And, like, they all went up in the air. And it might have been... I mentioned it in the footage. You're going to have to rewatch it. I mentioned it in the footage that, like, it almost looks like stop motion. So, I've not argued that it's unplayable. I would just say... I would hold off. If that's going to bother you, I'd hold off because it was pretty persistent and it was mostly when the fights were intense and it's very jarring. It's very damaging to the experience. Oh. I had the same issue when I was playing with 3 other players. When it gets busy, the frames drop drastically. The other players said that they had it happen as well. Yeah. The hitching and the snagging I probably could have overlooked. but it was like the thing in the middle of the fight. I was like, I can't really overlook this. This is like actually harming the experience. I would hope they fix it in a day one. So, all right, you guys on YouTube, there's a link of where we're going. Invalid username, Ginger Prime. I go through this every week. You can't put the @ symbol. That's what it is. Are these performance issues not what PlayStation warned people about when they purchased ABK? No. I feel like they were worried about getting like an inferior product. I don't necessarily know if that's what's going on. Like, I don't feel like that's what's going on. I don't feel like we got like an inferior product. I think it's like it's something with Unreal. It's something that's going to need to be polished. It also could be the lighting system. You know, the lighting system's, you know, gonna be a drain on performance pretty regularly. So thanks guys for all the likes, for all the support, and make sure and use the link in chat. We're gonna head over to the roundtable. You guys on purple, just ride the raid, and you guys on YouTube either click the link in chat or ride the redirect. All right, I'll see you guys over there.